This is the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast.
But yeah, I guess today we are joined, I'm going to do an intro. Today we're joined by Brian, a.k.a. Recappa Sedai, who does a wonderful YouTube channel, which has been around for, you're coming up on a year anniversary, aren't you?
Yeah, actually we are. Someone mentioned it to me recently, and I was like, oh yeah, snap, it's been a year. But we are coming up on a year in like the middle of April, so yeah.
Nice.
Congratulations.
That's super exciting.
I only really watched the first few of your videos and then the Manetheren Legos and the Tinker Song. I haven't really kept up with the interim, but I'm so glad that you've succeeded and gone so far in the year since I first was like, oh my god, you guys, you have to check out this new channel, and shared it to everyone that I knew then.
Thank you. I remember starting the channel. You were one of the first people in the community to reach out and say hi and that you liked it, and also reach out to people and say, watch this. So I am excited to be here today with both of you. Like, I listened to this podcast before Wheel Talk, so it's exciting for me. This is an honor. Thank you.
I just want to say, you bring the fun to the community, right? Like,
stop it.
Oh, you do. I'm like, oh, that's the fun section of the community over there. Yeah.
The comic, yes, definitely. It's the delight.
We like to have fun.
And the GIFs. The amount of GIFs I see across the servers.
Now, I don't make those.
Those are fun all on their own. You make the raw content, and someone else
someone else makes GIFs, but yes, I love them.
The expressions are what you produce. Someone else makes the GIFs, but you produce the expressions that are the GIFs.
It is funny to look up the GIFs every once in a while and see which faces they choose. But yeah, no, there's someone, Mandy, who does a really amazing job making GIFs and has really helped get that started, and I get such a kick out of it.
What was your inspiration for Recappa? Tell me a little bit how you got started, why you got started. Give me some intro into what that channel is and why you're doing it.
There are a lot of reasons. I am a writer and an actor, and I had just finished a project that did not go well. I lost the rights to something, and I was working in musical theater, and I wanted to do something that was not musical theater for a minute. And I knew Wheel of Time was coming out. And at the end of Game of Thrones, I was such a diehard Game of Thrones fan. And near the end, when things got heated, as far as the conversations went, I really regretted that I didn't have any kind of platform, because I had so many thoughts and my friends didn't want to hear them because they just thought I was being a negative Nancy. And I was like, no, but this is really something that's been a part of my life and I care about it. And there's a reason I feel this way. And at the same time, there was a part of that fandom that got way too heated with it and took it too far. So I didn't want to be like that, but I love Wheel of Time so much. It's a part of my life. So, and more so than Game of Thrones. And so when I knew this show was hitting Amazon, I didn't want to be in that situation again. I wanted to have a platform where I could talk about these things and think about what I was going to say too, because we do get heated about these stories. And I think it was important to me to do something that would be fun and funny, and so that I could balance that by getting real sometimes. Because I know that I'm prepping myself, because I know that when we get into the show, I'm going to be passionate. And I know there are going to be things that probably upset me. I don't want to say it that way, actually, because I think that it's hard when something's adapted and you love it. I don't know what's going to happen, but I want to have a place to talk about it. So, and I want it to be fun and I want it to be funny, because I think with Game of Thrones near the end, for me, it wasn't fun anymore, because the conversations got so dark and negative and I felt like I was being an asshole, but I also wanted to say something that mattered to me. So I don't want that.
They're trying to match episode 3 of season 8 with the darkness.
Yeah.
Just trying to get that. Yeah. Just really.
Yeah. Well, and I wanted to do it differently. We're reborn next time, so we can do better. Right. So I just wanted to, have something with Wheel of Time where I could talk about it and make it fun. So that was a long rambling answer, but that's me. You have a guest who likes to talk.
And where did Recappa come from?
Yeah, I know that you're of the Browns, so that means that you're one of mine, because I'm
Yes.
the first chair of this community.
This is funny to me, because I didn't think people would have this question when I started it. But if you look at it written out, it's Recappa from the word recap, because I do recaps. And I think a lot of people, when they just hear it and haven't seen it written, don't get that off the bat. So it's funny to me, because I think people have these moments of, oh, Recappa. Do you mean where the character came from?
The character,
oh,
yeah.
I thought you meant the name. I was like,
I thought the name was obvious.
I saw from the way you were looking at me, you're like, duh.
Yeah.
That's part of why I thought it was funny in the first place, was because it's like, recaps.
It's like, I mean,
we're pretty good with the reading comprehension.
no,
here.
I
We're
figured
more
you
looking
were,
for
which
the
is why,
backstory.
like, I was like, I guess I'll answer this. And I saw the look, I was like, no, I'm doing this wrong. I wanted to dress up as an Aes Sedai. I just really wanted to live my Aes Sedai fantasy, and if I was going to do a Wheel of Time video, I wasn't going to do it not dressed as an Aes Sedai. Like, just, if I'm going to make a Wheel of Time video, I'm going to be dressed as an Aes Sedai. That was never really a question that just, like, was always a part of it. Like, of course I would, if this is an opportunity to dress up as an Aes Sedai, why wouldn't I do it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that was always just it. I was originally going to just make it Moiraine. I was just going to be Moiraine. But then I turned out that the character I created was so ridiculous and insane. The idea that this would be Moiraine was like a little ridiculous. So we chose something different.
Yeah, would you say Recappa is also a brown? Like,
oh, yes. No, she is a brown.
yeah, because she seems like she comes out of the library like once, like every blue moon to, like, you know, bring a tome out.
Yeah, she's not like good as far as browns go. Like, I think she wants to be more knowledgeable than she is.
Yeah, no, for sure.
But she tries.
She helps support the smokescreen that some browns only put up as a front. She actually helps support it with truth.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then final question before we dig into the chapter, I wanted to ask, how'd you find Wheel of Time to begin with? How did it come into your life?
I was writing a musical that was fantasy based, and I wanted to start to read more fantasy. I think at the time I had just finished Harry Potter, and I was really unhappy with how it ended. And I felt, and like it was important to me. It actually really like shook me. And I felt like I wanted to read something better. So I started to look. So those were like the two main reasons I started looking. And I read a couple of series, and eventually I hit on the Wheel of Time. And that was just it. That was it for me.
When was that?
I was in college. 2010. So yeah, 11 years ago. Ah, that's crazy.
Wait, I was like, you mean last year?
No, I know. Now I have to think about these as numbers, and I'm like, oh god. But yeah, it was 11 years ago. But I have never stopped reading the series. Like once I finished, I've just continuously. I use the audiobooks a lot now, but I'm just continuously rereading the series. And this last year is the first time I've ever. I can't believe I didn't mention this when you asked about why I started Real Talk, but I don't have friends or family who read the series, so this is the first time in my life I've been able to talk about books, like ever. So that was a huge part of why I started Real Talk.
That's such a catharsis to be able to do that.
Yeah.
You haven't been to a Jordan Con yet?
I have never talked to people about the Wheel of Time before Wheel Talk, ever.
Oh, you poor baby.
I don't know anyone. Like, no, this is why I did it. Like, whatever I said before, this was a big part of it. Like, I needed to be able to talk about it. Because I just knew if the show started and I didn't have a place to talk about it, I would go crazy.
And that's wise. Like, to build the space first and to then have the conversations, right? Instead of trying to, like, build it and have the conversations at the same time. Like,
sure.
If you warm up rounds into it, and, like, then when the show comes out, you're like, I know maybe what I want to say.
Right. Some semblance of what I might want to do here.
So it's chapter 3, Hill of the Golden Dawn, and the symbol is the Flame of Valon.
This passage changed my life yesterday, rereading it. I've not been able to stop thinking about gateways. On a wide, low hilltop some miles north and east of the city of Kyrian, well away from any road or human habitation, a thin vertical slash of pure light appeared, taller than a man on a horse. The ground sloped away in every direction, undulating gently. Nothing more than occasional brush obscured the view for more than a mile, all the way to the surrounding forest. Brown grass fell as the light seemed to rotate, widening into a square opening in midair. A number of the dead stems were slit lengthwise, sliced finer than any razor could have, by a hole in the air. The instant the gateway was fully open, veiled Aiel poured out, men and maidens, spreading in every direction to encircle the hill. Almost hidden in the torrent, 4 sharp-eyed Ashaman took up positions around the gateway itself, peering toward the encircling woodland. Nothing stirred except with the wind, dust, tall grass, and branches in the distance. Yet each Ashaman studied the vista with the fervor of a starving hawk, searching for a rabbit. A rabbit watching for a hawk might have been his intent, but never with that air of menace. There was really no break in the flow. One moment it was a flood of Aiel. The next, mounted Kyrian and armsmen galloping out 2 by 2, the crimson banner of light going up at their head as soon as it cleared the gateway. Without a pause, Doughbrain drew his men aside and began forming them up a little down the slope, helmeted and gauntleted in precise ranks, lances raised to the same angle. Seasoned campaigners, they were ready to wheel and charge in any direction at his gesture.
Thundering in.
Boom!
That's a grand entrance.
Seriously. It goes from like a quiet meadow. Like, do you guys ever watch Short Circuit? You guys ever see that movie?
Mm-mm.
Oh, well, the opening scene is just the beautiful, like, close-up shot of some California poppies and a little butterfly, and then it gets run over by a tank. Tread, like, that's the opening shot of the movie, and that's very much this energy. It's like a quiet pastoral field, and then suddenly there's, like, a 1,000-person army, like, we're gonna kill someone!
Right.
This would be the great opening to, like, a season of TV.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Is you just open on an empty field, and then, boom! All these people come rushing through this gateway. This square gateway.
Square gateway.
Rectangular or whatever.
What the hell? How did I never catch that anyway?
So we touched on this briefly beforehand, but you've always thought,
Mm-hmm.
you think of this, and I'm putting words in your mouth,
No, that's okay.
a vertical line that then rotates around its center on the vertical axis to create a circular or oval-like opening in the air.
Yes. I mean, mostly circular, because I think of it as a line that rotates on one dimension, and the points of it create the border of the gateway. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. So
It does.
taking like a ruler, putting it down flat on paper, and spinning it around its center.
Yes.
And if you had a pen on each end of that, that would create a circle on the
Right.
page.
So I've
like
always
a compass.
envisioned a circle. I've envisioned a circle. And rereading this time, I was like, oh my God. I can't I mean, I've reread this series a couple times, and that I never caught that. And I've always envisioned circles. So since yesterday, I've been trying to re-envision this for myself. And it's hard because I think a rotating line makes a circle. That's what a rotating line makes. I don't know.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Trying to
indignity.
rethink how it looks, and I just can't do it.
And where Arady and I both immediately went was Flatland by Carl Sagan, which is a bit of a mind-blowing piece of scientific education.
It's a 7-minute video, absolutely worth your time.
Absolutely worth your time.
Links will be in the description.
I will watch that.
The sum of it is essentially imagine creatures living in a 2D world, like on a piece of paper, and how they would negotiate with each other, and then how would they conceptualize you cutting a hole in the piece of paper with some scissors. And unable to see the third dimension.
He describes it with a stamp. He takes an apple, 3-dimensional object, sets it on the paper, dips it in ink, right, and sets it on the paper. So it's only able to impress those 4 points at the bottom of the apple.
Okay.
And so now imagine as the apple passes through this 2-dimensional plane, what does the apple look like to these 2-dimensional people? Right? It's like a CAT scan. You're just getting slices of it. You're never able to see the apple in its entirety. You're only seeing it, this one dimension of it where it has dimensions. They literally cannot process that other dimension.
That all makes sense. And I actually think, given those circumstances, I can envision a way where it would be a square. My question is still, if the people see a rotating line, I can't make it work, because otherwise it's rotating on an axis and the line wouldn't move.
Yeah, the rotation happens from 4 dimensions into 3 dimensions. And so what you're actually seeing is a 4-dimensional object rotate into the 3rd dimension. I
think it could go in any direction. I think any shape could come from that. I don't think that the shape is inherent to the process. Like, I think that I don't even think squares make sense. I think circles make more sense. But I don't think it matters either.
Because it's coming through another dimension that's not necessarily bound to the rules of what we know.
Right.
Is that okay? Yeah. yeah, it feels very Wrinkle in Time, which I love.
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
totally.
Very Tesseract, but
very.
Yeah, I just, given the fact that it's very clearly described that they see these lines rotate, I just have a hard time visualizing what that specifically is. But I like this. I'm going to be rethinking how gateways work in my head for the next month.
That's wonderful. It's the little things.
Yeah.
What I was describing is, imagine a rotating doorway. What are those called?
Oh, the revolving doors?
The revolving door. And with only one plane in it. And if you're looking at that plane edge on, it's going to look like a vertical line, even though the whole plane of that glass is behind it.
Mm-hmm.
And then as the door rotates, as someone comes out, that plane, which is actually a square, inside the cylinder's rotating. But the plane, which looks like a vertical line, is going to rotate into a square that you can walk through.
Mm-hmm.
I know what you're saying, but the way I visualize it, the line wouldn't rotate, it would move like a sliding door.
It's weird, and the show is gonna lose a lot of sleep over producing it.
No, I mean it's fun to think about because I can't wait to see what it looks like. I love gateways. It's such a fun part of the Wheel of Time. So I love this conversation because I can't believe they're square.
And this is one of those things where I think Jordan very much had a physics background, and you see animations of things like this all the time in physics, where from one perspective, it looks like it's a straight line widening into a rectangle. From another perspective, it looks like something rotating.
Yeah, it reminds me a lot of what I learned in mineralogy about like crystallography and how that stuff rotates, because that never made any sense to me. This breaks my brain in the same fault lines. It hurts me in the same spots. So I agree. That's got to be really grounded in some hardcore physics.
Never thought about it when they talk about the line rotating as something that would be like interdimensional or something that was like hard to interpret as you watched it. But I like that explanation, and I would love to see them do something like that on the show where you're, tearing through fabric of dimensions. That'd be interesting.
Well, there's a lot in Wheel of Time that physically doesn't have to make sense. There's so many Teleron Riyadh dreams where the physics doesn't necessarily have to make sense. There's a lot of channeling where the physics doesn't have to make sense, and that's going to be what's interesting to me on the portrayal of magic is like, how are they going to show things working in a non-inertial frame? How are they going to show things being channeled and breaking laws of physics in a way that's interesting and fun, but at the same time, like, true to the novels?
We'll probably have sound in space, and we'll just deal with it.
We're just gonna have to deal.
I mean, let's be honest. We're talking about skimming, that great void. How do they breathe? There's got to be air. If there's air, there's got to be air pressure. That means the height at which you're at matters, which means as you fall, you get crushed by the pressure, or is there, it's...
Yeah, well, I will throw out there, if I were the show, I would throw out skimming. Come at me, folks. But I think if you're going to make a show, we don't need to... Because, yeah, how would you... You're going to have a different platform every time someone steps in there. How are you going to establish... I don't know. I think that's easier just to... It's better show language to just have gateways, I think.
How do you kill the golem?
There's 99 other ways.
With the gateway that leads into a volcano or or into the... Yeah, somewhere.
But I will defend Amazon a little bit here because they made The Expanse, which does not have sound in space.
That's true.
And I was very, very pleased with them when there was no sound in space in The Expanse.
But the novels don't either.
Well, I'm sure. I'm just saying that Amazon has managed to not fuck it up once. On that very metaphor. It was not a good metaphor for attacking Amazon. There are better, more correct ways.
I like that. Also, I'll just throw out there, because they opened the skimming gate and kicked the golem into it. Couldn't you just use a gateway to cut the golem in half? Wouldn't that work?
That was definitely... Well, but here's the question. Would the edges actually just fade away?
I think so.
When
they touched him.
It wouldn't touch him.
Because the power thing. Okay.
Yeah, he can move through space created by magic, but magic would move through him.
Okay, I like that. Hadn't thought about that. That's good.
And I am curious about if a volcano would work, because honestly, would it?
Yeah.
I think of the T-1000 or T-2000, like, molten metal in lava does eventually, like, because he can melt and change shape. Yeah. So, like, I can see him sort of doing that whole, like, taking on a bunch of different forms as he, like, dissolves in the lava type thing. But yeah, if you haven't read the 50 Ways to Kill a Golem article on the Watt FAQ, you should definitely Google it.
It was in the show notes a few episodes back.
It was, yeah.
It's good.
It's good. And there are lots of ways to kill a golem. Like, you don't need the void of the gateway.
I do think that throwing one into a volcano would make something kind of like a stone eater, probably. By the time that it like got out, it would be something more akin to a stone eater.
Well, we don't necessarily know. We have no evidence of what happened to the other 5, right? Like,
very true.
Did they die of old age? Did they die
I doubt that's a thing.
Violence? Yeah, well, that's the question.
Yeah.
We don't know if they aged, because this one was put in a stasis box.
So that suggests that there's at least 6 ways on that list that do work.
I'm so sorry. I'm using a PC that takes 2 chargers, and I didn't have either of them plugged in, so I was just freaking out that, like, any second this was going to disconnect, so I ran out. I'm so sorry.
It's totally fine.
You're right. We were discussing how this, we're recording a podcast, not a YouTube channel, or not like a live stream. We're not like trying to be entertaining at all points in time during this thing. Like, we don't mind pausing to like all read something for a minute or two while we get our thoughts together.
That's so refreshing. It's not what I'm used to, so that's lovely to. Yeah, podcasts are the best. I was telling everyone, I was like, I really better read up on this chapter before chatting with Seth and Aradia, because these two know what's up.
And we've got you for the next 2 chapters as well, which is, a continuation of what's going on.
It's a good trifecta of chapters.
Right.
And it's really mostly about Perrin being in his navel while things happen. But
yeah. Is this like where that all starts, kind of?
Yeah.
I feel like it sort of is, because
Yeah.
it's right after Dumai's Wells, and maybe before Dumai's Wells, it doesn't bother me. But after Dumai's Wells, it's like, come on, buddy.
Yeah. This is definitely, I read those 3 chapters before we did this, because I wanted them all in my head. And yeah, it's like, oh, this is everything that happens with Malden. This is setting us up for everything that happens with Malden.
Yeah. This is the beginning of the Perrin arc that people may or may
Which
not
I
like.
try to get into.
What I'm loving about it is I ignore everything Perrin thinks and only pay attention to what he smells.
Yeah.
And because what I'm doing is just basically observing the emotions of the characters around him through Perrin. And he never knows what he's talking about, so you ignore that. Like, you just, whenever he's like, oh, that must be happening because XYZ, you're like, no.
Incorrect.
Clearly not. Incorrect. Again, unreliable narrator. Jordan loves to prove his characters wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we open up with Perrin and Loial and Aram and the whole Two Rivers folks, all the Mayanners, everyone returning from battle, carrying the Red Eagle and the Wolfhead banner.
Yep. Lots of horseback riding.
And Perrin's not having it.
Yeah, Perrin's just being grouchy about the banners and how the Two Rivers men want it both ways. They want him to be a lord, but they won't listen to him when he says he's not a lord, which is how that works.
That's how that works, yeah, if you're a lord.
Rad al-Dai shows up and then doesn't show up again until A Memory of Light and is presumed alive at the end of the series. That's it.
Oh.
Nice.
He's just one of the al-Dai clan. There's 4 al-Dais. I looked this up. He does nothing but show up here and then once in A Memory of Light.
Thanks, Rad al-Dai.
It's so helpful.
For nothing.
He carries a banner. I mean...
Yeah, no, that's good.
Though it's the banner that Perrin's annoyed about, so thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is a summary that we've heard a couple of times of the return of Manetheren and the rebels and how the queens don't like that, and yada yada. And we know that does become an issue between him and Elaine at the end of the book series.
Yeah.
Like, that's something they do have to negotiate.
And that's something that gets besieged here, and he has such an annoying thought about her, about how, like, well, she's gonna be the queen someday. Like, she seems fine and pretty. It's like,
right.
What does this have to do with anything, Perrin? Why?
His train of thought, yeah, it's odd. It's also just like...
And he's not partial to fire-haired women. Like, she's gonna be your queen, not your wife. Calm down about her hair color.
It's not great. And he also just like... I mean, I know this is Perrin's thing throughout the series, but it's just kind of clear in this chapter. It's getting started here, where it's like, you're already doing the job. Like, it doesn't really matter how you see yourself, because these people are already raising your banners and calling you their leader. So however you see yourself, like, it's not important. You're already doing it.
I think that's why people get so annoyed with him, is like, dude, get over yourself already. And then it just takes forever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He has a thought near the end of the chapter about, am I any better than all these people who are working for their own self-interest? And it's like, no, not really.
Nope. You are exactly like them, actually.
Yeah, that's what you're doing.
I would argue that his self-interest is more purely motivated by love.
It reminds me of how LTT is obsessed with Ilyena and would burn the whole world and use his soul for Tinder to hear her laugh again. And it's like, well, she's going to be laughing in pain because the world's ending. And it's just like Perrin has a piece of that LTT obsessiveness. You know, whether or not Luce Theron had that is beside the point, but it's just like, wow, I thought only Rand had the voice in his head, but
But in the show, in the books, it's portrayed as a good thing. Fael becomes his anchor, his home, his obsession with her is what allows him to be so powerful in Teleron Riyadh, because she will always bring him back to the real world. That anchor that I'm sure Jordan experienced with Harriet, of someone who would just anchor him back to the real world when he went off into his dreamland. That aspect of Harriet is sort of what I think of Fael is Jordan being like, yeah, she's my reality.
Yeah.
After when I'm done writing these
and in
books.
fairness, that is a characteristic you see in a lot of like wolfy, werewolfy, dog type characters. The in deep loyalty, the obsessive romance, like that's a very tropey thing to have go with the canine human character.
I'll say about Timber, he's somewhat obsessed with me. Like, I can't leave a room without him being like, are you there? Are you ever coming back? So another way to think about this is Perrin as Fael's dog, quite literally. And her, like, leaving the room and him being like, is she okay? Is she coming back? When is she going to be back? Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. Yeah.
Yeah. Even in this chapter, it feels a little tired the way he's just, I don't know, I mean, like, I keep skipping ahead, but like, he's so worried about Fael. And Gaul says to him, he's like, she's not a child. Is this a joke? And it's like, yeah, seriously, you've got other stuff to, think about and take care of. Not that it's not important, but like, you do need to do your job, buddy. And there's so much of it in this chapter. I don't know. For me, it gets tired. I'm like, because I think Fael's going to be fine.
Right.
Like, I think Fael's going to be fine. So when these chapters go on about how Perrin's so worried, I'm like, well, I know that it's fine. So I don't need to keep reading about it.
Right, especially because he's like, well, she can't keep her temper. She's so hot-headed. She's going to get herself in trouble. It's like, way to infantilize your wife, bro.
Yeah.
The only legitimate concern is that, like, she knows that Fael is Perrin's wife, who's a liege lord or whatever, of the Dragon Reborn, who she's overthrowing.
For sure.
So there's... But what's keeping her alive and preventing that is that Colliver is giving lip service to the Dragon Reborn. She's being like, oh, I'm just doing this all in his name.
And Fael's smart enough to know that she's safe, that she can play the political game, and that if she plays a certain subterfuge thing, then she can fulfill this legacy about the broken crown, and so on and so forth. And Perrin's like, she's a child that can't hold her temper. And it's like, she's not.
Perrin must, like, he must be worried that she can't keep her cover. Otherwise he wouldn't worry, right? And it's like, she knows how to do this. This is the thing she's good at.
Yeah, if she was in danger, she would leave. She knows if this is a good risk. I trust her.
Right. It's like, focus on yourself, Perrin. You actually have stuff to do. So, let Fael do her thing and maybe get your job done and stop.
There's a bit of a flashback here to Dumai's Wells, right before they open the gateway. It's hardly a flashback because it's right before we open the gateway. It's like 10 minutes ago flashback. Okay. I'm like, okay,
we
Jordan.
needed the italics.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah, fine. It's a whole italics thing.
There are a lot of, italics in this first stuff.
It's funny because it's Rand being like, hey, Dashiva, do you think there's people being sneaky? Huh, Dashiva? Do you think that's happening? Do you think there's plots, Dashiva? It's like, hitting it on a bit hard, huh?
Who can I trust, Dashiva? Anybody?
Yeah.
Anybody?
Careful, because there's enemies everywhere, Dashiva. And you never know who they are, Dashiva. At this point, I should have looked this up. Has it been revealed to the reader that Dashiva is Osangar?
No.
No.
This is the first time he's on screen, really, in a meaningful way?
Because we just got a name drop from him like a chapter ago.
Okay.
Because Rand turns around and goes, I want him. And randomly points at Dashiva.
Huh.
And that's how we find out. That's how we are introduced to Dashiva. But we still have no idea. He's just a weird Al-Shaman at this point.
We haven't gotten any,
time readers.
we haven't gotten descriptions of him, really. Like, when he's introduced as Osangar, he's just angry. Right, like that's the description of him. There's no real, like, he looks like an ugly farmer, like, in here. We don't know yet, but it's like Jordan's sort of hitting you on the head with it, with the way that Rand's like, Dashiva.
And all the Ashaman did this, except Toshiba.
Yeah.
Like, the number of times Jordan says that in this chapter is really high. I was watching, reading the end of it, as I do, and all the Ashaman use red fire, except Toshiba uses blue lightning. And it's like, where do you think he learned that blue lightning from?
Yeah.
He's the only one? Okay.
And yet, somehow, I still have a hard time keeping him separate from Narishma. Somehow,
Rhyming
despite
thing.
all of that.
SH.
Not after we do this freaking entire book. I'm sure I'll have it straight after this book, but that's funny.
To start off the flashback, Perrin comments on Rand's coat, and is like, I can't believe he's so vain, he tore apart every single wagon, searched top to bottom, just for a fancier coat.
Not for a fancier coat.
Mm-hmm.
He was looking for a...
He wasn't searching it for a fancier coat. Yeah. He was looking for the Fat Man Terang Rial that was taken off of him when he was captured. And that is his only weapon that isn't the Choden Call or Kalendor.
And he somehow missed it, and then Brandon Sanderson found it for him.
Yeah, I don't like that Brandon Sanderson returned that.
Where is it at this point?
In the wagons somewhere. Somehow it gets all the way back to Kyrian, and he finds it in the back of a closet at some point in a coat. He's like, oh, I didn't know this coat was in here. And it's like, you tore the wagons apart after Dumai's Wells. That's bullshit.
I need to, trace the details of that. That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the location of the access keys is such a thing.
No, it's not the access key. It's the Fat Man Tarangriel. It's the
The Fat Man Terang Grill.
little sword Buddha dude.
Right, that one was melted anyway. No, not yet. Okay. Sorry.
The Fat Man he keeps in his pants?
Yes, the Fat Man in his pants. Yeah.
Yeah, that one.
Fat Man in his pants. You don't want to lose
No.
that.
No, and he lost it, and here he's. It's like, you've got the Fat Man that I used to keep in my pants somewhere in these wagons, and it's very emasculating not to have it.
Someone took the Fat Man in my pants, and what am I going to do?
Yep.
Yeah.
Maybe, okay, someone in chat is saying, well, maybe it's still in the wreckage of Dumai's Wells. So maybe someone, goes back and finds it. But I don't know how it gets into his... There's Eye of the Worldisms, and there's
Sanderisms.
Sanderisms.
Soon we're going to have...
Rafisms?
Rafisms.
Rafisms.
Or Amazonisms?
I think we already do.
Yeah, fuck you and your yellow sister.
Chesmo.
Yeah. That's a classic Rafism.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Classic
Bear
Rafe.
Brothers.
So good. I love that.
Yeah.
Fuck you and your yellow sister was really good. Was it Chesmal?
Yeah,
Fuck
Chesmal,
Chesmal.
Emerald. Yeah.
She's black. You can't have her heel, Rand. Fuck your yellow sister.
Yeah.
Fuck your yellow sister.
So, here's the Deshiva thing. Deshiva is the only one who can't figure out how to use the sword, even though all the other Ashaman are training with it. He's the only one who's awkward around it. Because I'm guessing he doesn't actually go practice. I think he just compels everyone to think he goes practicing.
Or something. Yeah.
Yeah, he wouldn't bother.
He wouldn't bother.
Can you imagine a Forsaken? No.
No. Only, Demadra and Samael, because it's a chance for them to flex.
Yeah, and don't forget, Deshiva's a nerd, right? This guy likes to work in a lab, right? He is not a fighter. He's not physical in any way, shape, or form.
The Wise Ones are stabbing Aes Sedai with sticks to make them move.
Oh, I love this so much. I know I shouldn't, maybe, but there's something about it that makes me smile.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the term herding cats comes to mind,
Seriously.
right? Poking them with sticks to get them to run in the right direction.
And they're just, pretending that it's not happening, but it's totally happening.
And the fact that it's Wise Ones poking Aes Sedai, and that they've always kind of looked down on the Wise Ones. And I mean, I think after Dumai's Wells is such a change in the dynamics between all the channeling groups, meaning the Ashaman, the Wise Ones, and the Aes Sedai. And right after Dumai's Wells, we see the Wise Ones poking the Aes Sedai with sticks to get them moving along. And it's just kind of crazy. Given the way Aes Sedai are revered throughout the rest of the series, it's such a turn. And Karuna probably doesn't deserve what she gets in this chapter, but there is a part of me that giggles a little bit, and it's you guys aren't invincible. Sorry about it. It's satisfying to see them taken down a notch, even though it's probably not fair to them.
I think it's a real theme of this book, watching Aes Sedai get taken down a notch by other groups of channelers. You've seen it with the Kin, or you will see it with the Kin. We see it here with the Aes Sedai. We see it with the Sea Folk. People are just realizing these people aren't shit. The Aes Sedai that thought they had all the control, they don't know what they're doing. They're a dying organization. Their knowledge really isn't that good. When we see the Kin who, the Yellows want to learn from.
They're getting poked with sticks.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
And they're
from
just gonna bump the sticks.
demigods to, like they're a different flesh. They're not a different flesh. They're absolutely just people like anybody else, which Moraine tells us in book 1. She's like, no, being an Aes Sedai doesn't make you anything except magic. It doesn't change who you are. And the world figures that out a lot in the course of this series, but particularly this book.
If anything else, the power structure and the isolation they've been in makes them less weaker than the other groups. The other groups have been in among the world, where the Aes Sedai have been in an ivory tower.
Yeah, they're a bit too conservative and a bit too hidebound at this point.
After the breaking, I mean, basically all of Crossroads of Twilight is the aftermath of that, but I feel like the aftermath of Dude Mice Wells is more condensed, and we really get to see how it changes the world in the prologue in a few chapters, and it really just turns things around. So I love this part of the series where we're seeing that turn.
Yeah, and it's something that like normal soldiers can appreciate, right? Like weapons of warfare, like the cleansing is really profound, but it's going to take a few centuries for that to really sink in.
Yeah, that's true.
But like Do My Wells is like yesterday and today are different.
Yeah, it's a thing people can understand. Yeah.
It's really that ending line, the Aes Sedai knelt and the world was changed forever.
Mm-hmm.
Like that really, like, it ends on that line because that is the truth. It is a pivot point. The more we get into it, the more I'm realizing just how much of a pivot point Jordan used Do My Wells for. Like, he's just changing everything about the series, everything about what these characters are doing and where he's going with them, his book structure, his narrative structure.
Right, you thought Falma was an exciting battle. Well.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it completely changes the Aes Sedai. It also completely changes the Ashaman. And here they are with the Aes Sedai in this chapter. So it's fascinating to see the aftermath of Do My Wells in this chapter.
Yeah, the Ashaman demonstrate the full force of this fully functioning battle station. I mean, that's really, like, they're a thing, right? That's a weapon that you have to, like, in a lot of ways, it reminds me a little bit of dropping the atomic bombs on Japan in World War II and being like, yes, boom, we have a weapon. This weapon exists. We now have to deal with it going forward. There is this thing, and we at the time unilaterally had that weapon that nobody else had, and then the same is kind of true of the Black Tower.
Yeah, it's a game changer. And you also see at Do My Wells that the Aes Sedai are not fully capable of attacking freely because of their oaths, and the Ashaman don't have that. So there's just like, you really start to see the difference in power shift.
The Wise Ones are pretty unimpressed with both male and female channelers. They kind of like hold this middle line through the whole thing of like, okay, you're going to come down to our level, but like, we're not that impressed anymore. And like the male channelers don't get that much more fear.
Yeah.
Like a little more fear, but not the crazy response of the Wetlanders.
It is so delightful to watch, read. Watch, listen, read. Let's pick one. How about read? It's so delightful to read Soralia putting the Aes Sedai in their places, just because we don't get to see Wise Ones do that to Aes Sedai ever. That's not like, we hear the Aes Sedai talk down to the Wise Ones, but it's never the other way around. And this is just a really fun chapter for that reason. It's like, oh, this is going to be different from now on. And also Soralia is just great.
Everything about Soralia is great.
And especially she's great in the background, right? It's all the little comments about how everyone does what she says and how, but her interactions with the Meese and the way women move around her. Like, there's so many really interesting facts about what she does, but if you're not reading for it, it's very easy to overlook.
Is Soralia a channeler?
Yes.
I'm embarrassed to ask.
Just that tiny little wispy flame.
A little bit, okay.
She's like more gaze level channeler.
Okay. So I love that too, because I was remembering there's like something about her. I was like, is she? So she's weak. I love that she has the status she has among the Aiel, and that we see here her putting Aes Sedai in what she considers to be their place. And it's like, she doesn't need the power to do what she wants to do, this woman.
That's why Cadsuane likes her so much. It's because that's what Cadsuane would do too, is poke those Aes Sedai with a stick for being such dumbasses.
She would.
a great alliance between those two.
Yeah, and Cadsuane comes back in this book too. So all the more reason to be appreciating Soralia before she meets her match in Cadsuane.
And part of the reason the Wise Ones are able to reframe the Aes Sedai in the way that they're able to do is, their power structure isn't based on the one power. So someone like Soralia can take power without having to be a powerful channeler. And that's where I think with Aes Sedai, you end up having people who just aren't that wise be in charge of things because they have more of the one power. Like, that's something I think you see with Elida, right? I think a lot of Elida's respect that she gets is because she is one of the most powerful channelers the White Tower has produced.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, up until now. And so she was always assumed to be leadership material, irrespective of how good she was at leading, simply because she was very powerful.
No, I love the fact that the Aiel have, I mean, with the exception of Sivana, in general, wise ones are like really good at what they do and actually wise. And that's because they don't have this bullshit system of, oh, you were born with this certain thing, so that ranks you higher than me. It's great to see that unfold because you start to see how it really damages the Aes Sedai. How could they choose Elida? And it's like, well, because they have no semblance of how to choose a leader. They just don't, they have no idea how to do it. They go by nothing. So yeah, of course they.
Yeah, politics,
Absolutely.
which we all know how that works out.
Yeah, strength and popularity.
Yeah, and it's
a good
not
platform.
unrealistic the way it's done in the books.
No.
And I
No.
appreciate that about it, but it's not smart.
It's nice that we get counters like the kin and the wise ones and the sea folk.
Yeah.
It's basically how you elect, like, a high school president, you know? Like, popularity and power. Yeah.
That's pretty
Yeah.
much how the Black Tower approaches it, is who's got the most strength.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure they have a way of,
Well,
I
because
guess
it's
so.
under Taim, so obviously it's going to be a might makes right sort of system. But like they very much are they're trying to imitate the White Tower. Even the ones that aren't explicitly Taim's lackeys, they still think the White Tower is how a channeling organization is meant to be set up.
That's why I always advocate for the Grey Tower.
The Grey Tower.
Yeah, the Grey Tower. The basically Pavara and Andral go off and form their
Yes.
own. Like, you have to be bonded, dual
need
bonded
it.
to be part of this tower.
Okay.
And they exist independently with a whole different set of rules, and they're able to do all the things that men and women can accomplish together.
Oh, I like that. That's also very Wheel of Time that there are these two parts, but there's actually a third part that
Exactly.
Yeah, that's I like that.
The three shall become one.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
There's a third part that you didn't know till later. That's fun.
And then, like, I kind of see the Grey Tower growing and growing and growing, while the White and Black Tower sort of fade away of importance until you end up with a united Aes Sedai again. That you don't unite the White and the Black Tower, but you end up with a third tower that sort of like the way the Gen fade away and are replaced by
So that's
the
the
Aiel.
way the age wheels back around to being one tower with united men and women is, I like that. Yeah, and I also think that's such an interesting thing, the dual bonds, that we really only get a tiny bit of. And it's such a fun piece of Wheel of Time lore that I think we all want to know more about. So I like that.
So much more.
I know. There's so much
So
stuff.
many unanswered questions.
So much stuff in
Right.
that book.
Sanderson just loves to push the magic system to the edge of what's possible, based on the rules that as they exist, and I think that's what he's doing with the dual bonding. Is like, really, you know, what a bond going one way has this sort of thing, and a bond going two way has this feedback, and then how would they feed into each other, and it creates this third thing, which is almost like another end. Again, back to our theme of, do you think there's two things, and then they become a third,
Yeah.
right? Like, there's a male, you know, bonding males and bonding females, but now
It's the true bond.
it's the true bond. And there's also this difference because, like, obviously Rand and Alana have half of that bond.
Yeah. He could
Mhm.
totally have bonded her back and created that. Same with Elaine or Avienda. He could have bonded either of them back.
Yeah, why didn't he?
I wonder if he could have bonded if he had bonded Min back. That would
Yeah.
have had the same result. Probably
It's
not.
interesting. I would think so, because the part that's missing is Min's not a channeler, so she wouldn't be able to bond him, but since she's part of the bond with other people...
I will say, when we got to that part of the series and they were like, oh yeah, no, you can bond someone who's not a channeler, I was kind of like, well, no. They've always bonded people who aren't channelers.
Yeah.
There was something...
Someone who's not a channeler can bond you.
I guess
Yeah,
it was just the
bringing
way they
it-
combined it all that I was like, oh, I didn't realize
Yeah.
this works this way.
Putting her on the Aes Sedai side of the equation rather than the Warder side.
That's
of the
what it
equation.
was. That's what it was. Thank you. Yes. That's why I was like, oh, I thought that being on that side of it meant you had to be a channeler. That's where it was.
Well, it did until she had the Aiel birthing ceremony weaves to riff off of. That was what gave her the idea for how to blend the things together.
That's true, yeah. So, I mean, it was an invention of something new by, you know, taking two previously known things and creating a unique thing that didn't exist before.
It's cultural fusion.
It's like when you go to the restaurant that's got, you know, Thai Mexican fusion.
Yes. It's exactly what she was doing.
This is a sushi burrito, basically.
I was just thinking about
the
sushi burrito.
burrito weave.
Yes. Well,
They should have called it that.
Now.
What a wasted opportunity.
It's how we're able to bond men with the sushi burrito. So we get this Aiel running up, basically who's been stationed nearby just in case they pop in. And her name is...
Farigan.
How would you say that? Farigan.
I say Farigan after reading it aloud, but I don't know if that's right.
That's how it goes in the audiobooks.
Okay,
when
Farigan
Soraya yells at her, she says, Farigan!
I like that. Let's go with that.
We get a very hilarious exchange with her because she's kind of a young wise one and very intimidated by Sorelia and the Karakarn.
Right. And she embarrasses herself. It's like having your job performance questioned in front of the board of directors of the company.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I totally would have if you'd let me.
And before that, I wanted to point out the thing about Rand talking about trusting Perrin or not. And then his scent is jumbled enough for two men. Who is even trusting Perrin in this moment? Who's trusting Perrin in this moment? Is this LTT talking, being yeah, I trust you? Because his scent is jumbled enough for two men in this moment, according to Perrin.
I would assume he's having the emotions of two men.
Do you think he actually doubts Perrin, though? Because I don't think Rand would.
No, I think at this point, I don't think he ever doubts Perrin.
Not his loyalty. I think that he's running through his mind. He's I can't trust anyone. I can't trust Aes Sedai. I can't trust Ba. I can't trust, And he's but I can trust these people.
Right, because he says it here, and then later in the chapter, he takes the longest to decide to bring Perrin with him. I missed one of the future chapters, but it's just I don't want to think that Rand mistrusts him, so I want to blame LTT for coming through on that.
But LTT is Rand.
LTT is Rand's madness and paranoia, not Rand's Randness.
Are you not also somewhat your madness and paranoia?
Aren't we all?
Can you really separate those?
No. I guess not when you put it like that.
But yeah, no, there's this just trauma where he really at this point has been betrayed so many times he doesn't know who to trust, and so I think he's trying to convince himself to trust Perrin.
He doesn't trust Vael, so he has to think it through.
It annoys me when Rand says, I trust you, Perrin, and then Min shifts in her saddle and Rand has to be oh, I trust you too, Min. And I'm did you need to hear that, Min? Why? I don't know. It's one of those Rand Min moments. I'm all right, I don't know.
Which maybe means she's not uncomfortable because of that. Maybe he's misinterpreting. Maybe she's you need to trust Perrin.
Maybe that shouldn't have been. Yeah, maybe there's more to that, actually. Yeah. Because I always...
She really worries about their relationship. She really worries about that.
I like that, because when I read it the other day, yesterday, I was just oh, it seems like she's just annoyed that he trusts Perrin, and would say that without saying, I trust you first, which seems childish to me. But, I mean, given the circumstances, he doesn't need you feeling or just, I don't know. Anyway, it rubbed me the wrong way. So that's interesting. I like that she's worried about something else.
Because she never believes their fight or whatever, and she's worried about Rand pushing his friends away. So she's if you have to say out loud that you mistrust Perrin, what's going on? Or that you do trust Perrin, what? Are you okay? You're not okay. You're clearly not okay. We know you're not okay.
Right, it's weird that you would say this in the first place when this is your friend.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I like that.
I mean, because it makes it less of a weird childish thing, like you were saying.
Yeah, no, that makes sense, and because that makes more sense because Min's smart. I think I have other stuff with Min, but she seems smart to me. So the idea that Perrin would be Rand's I trust you, Perrin, and Min would be oh, what the hell, you don't trust me?
Right, sad algae noises in the background. Right?
Yeah, it seems not Min. So I like that answer a lot.
And also, it comes out of nowhere. He's just sitting there silent and goes, "I trust you." I should hope so. Why would you not?
Right.
we weren't talking about trust. We weren't
no one asked.
Why are you debating this in your head? This is very weird for you to suddenly turn to me and say that.
Yeah.
And then just below that, Perrin is thinking, that he wants his friend to stay sane, but the Dragon Reborn has to stay sane. So he's feeling kind of bad in himself about not that he doesn't trust Rand, but there's a lot of... It's weird. Perrin can't really defend, well, of course I'm trustworthy, because he's I really want you to stay sane because you're the dragon.
Right. He's starting to separate in his mind the idea that this is his friend and also the dragon. And he has to square that.
Yeah. So he's like, maybe you shouldn't trust me because, like, I care more about your status as the dragon than as my friend when it comes to your sanity, which is like, there's a lot of hypocrisy and bad decisions. Not bad decisions. No good decisions.
But he has to trust a lot of people who care about his status as the Dragon Reborn more than his status as Randall Thor or the Karkarn. Or, he is a leader first. Like, Codswain doesn't really care about Rand. Well, I guess she does care about Rand.
Perrin's one of the only people that worries about caring about Rand, right? Most people don't even bother to worry about it. So Perrin's actually ahead of the curve, but he thinks badly of himself.
Yeah.
I think when the wise ones make the pact with Codswain and they're like, we need to restore his emotions, they are caring about him in a way.
In a way. I mean, I think that their motives are they're worried about the Dragon Reborn going nuts, and so they want to save Rand. But I don't know if there are many characters in the series, if any, who care more about Rand than the dragon. I mean, just practically speaking. Nynaeve is a good example.
Mm-hmm.
Nynaeve is like, I'm the only one who still cares about Rand more than the dragon.
I mean, I guess you could argue Rand's romantic partners, but I actually think Nynaeve has a more interesting, deep relationship with Rand and is a better example of that, yeah.
For sure. But Perrin is one of the next runners-up for people who actually remember to feel guilty about that change happening.
Mm-hmm.
That's why he's one of his real friends.
Yeah, I never give Perrin credit for that. It's a good point. I should be easier on Perrin, maybe.
I'm trying to. Morgan from Podcast of the Dragon has made several really good counter arguments to my dismissal of Perrin, so I'm trying for her sake, but it's hard.
I think he's a great character.
I guess I'm trying for your sake too, then.
Yeah, thank you.
I think he's a great, like, of all the Emmons Fielders, he's probably the one I most want to hang with,
That's fair. That's fair.
I'd want to work with him. I'd love to be in a forge with Perrin.
Yeah.
He'd be a good worksite buddy for sure. Everyone's anxious on the hillside. That's what I have highlighted next. 1,000-person army is ready to jump at anything.
Well, because it does look like they've been spotted, right? They came through a gateway where nobody should know where they are, and all of a sudden there's a scout running up to them. That is disturbing.
So it makes sense the way they describe it,
But at the same time, it puts everybody on edge.
Mm-hmm. And they stay on edge for the next 3 chapters, basically.
Yeah. Well, because the news she brings is not good. Things have not stayed the same or been just fine while you were gone. Oh yeah, you were fine, and you were gone, and we took half our troops with us, but nothing's changed at home. Sure. No, I mean, obviously, the Aes Sedai seeded all sorts of political problems that he now has to deal with before they left. There's all sorts of problems with the Shido, and because they're still threatening, right? Because as we said, only what do we think? A third of the Shido were at Dumai's Wells, something like that.
Something like that.
A third of them?
A quarter, something like that. It's not much.
A quarter, I think. Yeah, it was a tiny. It's not much. So most of the Shido are still here, still threatening the city.
Ugh, the Shido.
And I love how they make Rand come to them with the news. They get the news, right? And then Sorlia hears some of the news and then clearly turns to Rand with this, well, you need to come over here and listen to this.
Right. Who do you think you are? I just thought that.
Yeah, you need to hear this, but you also need to come to us.
Yeah. Which, good for her.
Definitely.
Someone
Get down off that horse. Get down off your high horse, literally.
Right. The timing could probably be better, but someone needs to do it. But right after Dumai's Wells, I'm like, oh, I don't know.
No, I mean, he's very much on edge, especially when it comes to channelers and what they do with her without his permission.
And then Gaul starts scowling for some reason. We know what that reason is. Because he's spotted Bane and Chiad being here. Well, Bane specifically hasn't seen Chiad yet. But Rand is over here being annoyed by the wise ones. And Gaul is about to make Perrin very upset. The whole maid. Which is a hilarious little sub-anxiety underneath all this military stuff. And then it's well, my girlfriends are being mean. Wait, my wife is in danger because your girlfriends are... It's just
Yeah. I love how casually Gaul says, I don't like Bane, but I'll marry her to make Chiad happy. And I really, respect that the Aiel have their own system. And it's not really a system that necessarily is something I'm familiar with, but the idea that he's just I don't like her, but I'll marry her if I have to. I'm a little mixed on that, but it's just so casual that it really is funny to me. I really like that part. And still all Perrin can react with is, wait, I'm sorry, Bane and Chiad left Fail. But it's it makes it even more casual that Gaul just said this thing. And it's you don't like her, but you're gonna marry her? Like, it's funny to me.
And I love that he's offended, like, they'll bang me, but they won't marry me? They don't think I'm good
Yeah.
enough for that?
So
Like,
scandalized.
yeah.
I know. What good is being able to bang them? I just thought, I thought it was husband material.
Right, yeah. He's like, am I not good enough?
But I think the fact that he
Insulted.
doesn't like Bane is a good enough reason not to marry him.
I mean,
Right?
shocking
Like, I think that's why
concept.
Chiad's being freaking smart, right? She's like, yeah, we'll fuck you, but you don't like her very much. And like,
Yeah.
until you do, no, I'm not going to marry you, because then I'm going to have married two people in my life who don't like each other very much. Like, this is not a good plan. And I think that what happens is the relationship evolves, and Bane and Gaul do end up respecting each other and do find some sort of accommodation in place where they do like each other very much, and that's why they're able to get married. But at this point, no, he needs to mature, and she's being very smart and saying, absolutely not. No, you
Yeah.
don't like my partner. Get the fuck out.
But also, like, look at this. Look at what you're missing.
Oh, yeah.
She still does that. He gets so
But
offended.
also,
She's
I'm
like,
Chiad,
stop
hey.
attracting my eye if you're not going to give me what I want. And she's like, no, you need to get over yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, I that part always kind of strikes me, and I think it's fun and interesting.
Yeah, I like the world building too, because you don't, like you said, it's dropped so casually. You have to imply so much about their culture without ever having RJ do any of it. He's just like, no, you figure it out. It's that casual for them. Here's what that means.
Yeah, no, it feels very much like Aiel are much more straightforward about their romantic relationships, and it's like you take it or leave it, and if this is what you want, take it, and if not, don't. Like, they're very much, they say, they're just upfront and not ashamed. Not that they should be ashamed, but like that the way he tells Perrin, like, it's just, yeah, I don't like her, but I'll marry her if I have to. It's just a completely different world. And I really, however I feel about that being maybe not healthy to just marry someone you don't like, I think it's great that he really sets it up as a different culture, and Perrin's just not used to it, and it's just not his world.
Being able to just casually say, oh yeah, I'll bang the two of them, no problem, but yeah, blah, 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 blah. But don't touch my cheek in public. That's scandalous. Like, there's just these different levels of, like,
Yeah.
that's just,
Yeah.
keep it, get a room, you two.
Yeah, how dare you
touching
hold
cheeks.
hands.
Yeah,
Woof. Woof.
yeah. So there's these different levels, and he does a great job of portraying it. Just like different things are seen as prudish or taboo in different cultures,
Mm-hmm.
and particularly in the Aiel culture. It's not that they don't have taboos; they're just different taboos.
For sure.
Very different, yeah. But also, if someone touched my cheek in public, I would be scandalized. I mean, that's shocking. That's crazy. Ugh.
I mean, these days, yeah, actually.
Get your hand away from my face.
Seriously, what the fuck?
Who does that these days?
Do you have 6-foot arms? I didn't think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that hand sanitized? The gall.
So we get some bad news about what's been going on in their absence. The bleakness has returned. They're losing a lot of warriors who
1,000
end up
a
becoming
day.
1,000 a day.
God.
A lot.
That's a lot. That's about how many people are losing to COVID these days.
It's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Also a lot.
Ruark is upset. Ruark is pressed like a panini.
Panini pressed.
And you have basically Idrian, the leaders of these clans, who are worried that Rand is now under the influence of the Aes Sedai, and are basically thinking about abandoning him and not supporting him.
is thinking about a suicide mission to Tarvalon to get him back,
Right.
Mhm.
Well,
which is as useless as Timolen saying, well, we'll just go back to the Threefold Land. It's like neither of those are good solutions.
Right.
Certainly not if you each do your own thing. So they're fracturing, right? Each clan is falling down on itself and being left to figure it out on its own because there's no one to unify it, and the wise ones and the clan chiefs have to be like,
Yeah.
we're gonna go get him. He'll be right back.
yeah, 5 more minutes. 5 more minutes, I swear.
I mean, it's a big deal to see the Aiel splinter like this in this chapter. It's kind of, I mean, it continues, but Shadow Rising is the beginning. But this is really like where we start to see the clans go different ways and start to worry. Like, I start to worry about what's going to happen to the Aiel.
Mm-hmm.
Remnant of a remnant. All these losses are people that they're losing forever. So
Yeah. It's one of the prophecies fulfilled. So it's kind of a fun thing while it's also sad.
Slay them with the sword of peace and break them with the...
And, of course, we have the fact that Colivare has been crowned herself queen, which Rand is just like, yeah, that happened, right?
Right, yeah, if that was all the bad news, Soralia wouldn't look like she had swallowed a lizard. And then Darren Sulin looked as though their lizards were still alive on the way down.
Oh.
I love that line. And
Yeah.
it's like, what have you not told me? And she's like, you're so smart. But
Good job.
yeah, gold star for you, Car.
Yeah, this is this. My day got better, even though.
That kind of reminds me of someone who's like trying to scam you, and you're like,
Yeah.
so what haven't you told me? Like, oh, smart, you figured it out. It's like,
Flipping the vibe.
yeah, exactly.
We've got Perrin being like, I can't think through all this strategy. It's way over my head. And then he goes into paragraphs of like accurately thinking about all this strategy and
yeah,
knowing exactly
exactly.
what he's
Yeah.
talking about. It's like Perrin with the imposter syndrome right now.
And that is Perrin to a T. All of his complaining about, I don't know how to do this, I'm not suited for it. He thinks deeper, he gets every angle. Like, he is a better leader than anyone out there, and certainly better than he gives himself credit for.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I feel like whether he is or not, he's already doing it.
Exactly. Just lean into it.
I would be so much like this whole thing of Perrin not wanting to lean into it would be more interesting if someone else were in charge and Perrin needed to like take over. But in this scenario where like he's already the leader, it's like what? There's no stakes. You're already leading them. What does it matter how you see yourself?
Right.
Yeah, seriously.
Your first podcast episode is going to be trash, right? To get past the point where you have to start making good things, you have to make bad decisions for a while first before you can start making good decisions.
Super fair.
And that's where Perrin has started to sort of, he's made some bad decisions, right? I mean, he made some mistakes in the forest that got some people killed. Obviously, Do Might As Wells didn't go great. Like, it took him a while to realize that Rand had been kidnapped. All of these things come together where he's not perfect, but he's learning from his mistakes and he's getting better.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then he makes this very sad observation about humanity that most people would be plotting up till Tarmangaiden, and the day after it starts, and most of them won't be dark friends, just people. And it's like, yes, this is an observation about humanity that is accurate.
I also feel like it's Jordan being like, this there's not going to be any grand unification in the last battle. Like, Shan-Chan are still going to have to be manipulated into coming to fight.
Right, which is like, we tend to I think, speaking as a millennial, we tend to think that some existential crisis, usually aliens, will unify the world, right? Or maybe something
just because TV tells me so.
Exactly. Like,
right.
we have this mythos that there will be a existential crisis that can unify people. RJ's like, so we have a 3-year buildup to the literal prophesied end of the world? No. Even then.
People are still fighting, yeah. And it's crazy that they are, but it's also believable.
So believable.
It's scary believable, yeah. I like that Perrin says in this chapter there would be people who still weren't joining their cause even after Timon Garden started. Tarmon Gaidon starts, and I can talk. But even after the last battle starts, there will be people who resist them, and it's not because they're dark friends. It's because they just care about themselves.
And we see it.
Yeah, but I just think
He's right.
that, like, I like that even at this point, the characters are acknowledging that like, it's not all about dark friends. There's also just like people who aren't helping, and it's screwing us over.
It's hard for me not to make parallels with climate change,
Absolutely.
right? That we have the existential end of the world coming.
Talk about an existential threat.
Most people aren't evil, but most people, right.
Yeah.
Most people are just continuing on in their personal lives, doing what they think is valuable. Some people are taking advantage of it to make a profit. Some people are actively trying to fight it, but the reality is most of us are just trying to live our lives while disaster is coming.
Very few of us are trying to make it worse actively bringing it about through a death cult pact. Some of us are, not many of us. Most of us are just getting along. But the end result is that, unless aliens show up and give us Rand, then I don't know what we're going to do.
I kind of think of the Aes Sedai as like the board of directors for like an oil company. It's like they're probably more likely to be on the evil side, even if they are good people for the most part.
Or at least complicit.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
They're just so used to their ways. They're just...
Change is slow. Just wait until this generation has died off, then we can get around to it.
Besides, we're always doing the right thing. Don't worry about it.
Our hearts are in the right place.
Right. We want to protect the world.
We've got NIMBYism. I feel like we need, not in my generation-ism.
Yeah.
After
my generation.
Oh, we'll do that after my generation. You'll do it next
AMG.
generation.
After my generation.
After my generation. Like, there does seem to be that, like, not in my backyard and not in my generation. Like, I know change needs to happen, and we'll get to it eventually.
Yeah.
When it's someone else's problem.
Yeah.
In someone else's place. Yeah, that seems fine to me. So yeah, I see a lot of that going on here.
Yeah, it's a good analogy. It works. I wish it didn't.
Yeah.
We get some questions. Rand is asking about the political situation about Colivare. He brings up Barrelane.
And at this point, Perrin is starting to lose it, right? The plot is moving along, and Perrin has hit freeze.
He's like, "Why aren't you asking about Fail?"
Yeah, it's just every other sentence is like, Fail.
It really is. Like, it becomes
really is,
the whole content of the chapter at a certain point. It's like, we're just
3
reading
chapters. Like, that's all you get. That's all you get when you come onto the show, is just being in Perrin's, like, dark rabbit hole.
Yeah. The 2 things I've kept thinking about since this chapter are gateways and why doesn't Perrin just take up the banner? I know the second one's pretty basic thing everyone thinks about, but it's like, what if he did? What if he just took up Manetherin's banner after Dumai's Wells and was like, you know what? We're already doing it, so I'll just lead you. And those 2 things happen at the same time. The, 2 Rivers folk thinking of themselves as Manetherin people and Perrin becoming their leader. That would be such a cool moment.
And it would work because he has to lead the people into Giladon to take out the prophet, right? Like, he's leading, like, he's going on a quest with his people. Like, accept your leadership role.
100. I mean, for the rest of the series till right before the last battle, he does this where it's like you're already leading them. The only difference is that you don't see yourself that way. So, like, we kind of throw away an opportunity to have a moment where he truly becomes the leader. By the time he does, it doesn't even feel important because he has been all along.
Right?
Yeah, his realization that, like, it's not gonna go away is like, yeah, you've done everything you can to make it go away.
Yeah.
Duh. But yeah, here he's just, he's not even thinking about the banner anymore. It's just, like, how dare Rand not be thinking of my wife?
Right.
It's like, I'm sorry. Yes, Rand needs to think about your wife above and beyond, like, the kingdom he's trying to recover.
I like that Gaul asks whether it's a joke when Perrin brings it up. And Gaul says, is this Wetlander humor?
Yeah.
And he says, she's not in short skirts anymore. And Perrin's like, I know she's not a child. And it's like, but do you? Because really, like, there's other... I mean, of course you're worried about your wife, fine, but we just don't need to make it this whole chapter.
No, and this question. Has she harmed Barrelane? Barrelane, the first of man, who Rand had left in charge of Carian. Why didn't he ask about Fail? I don't know, maybe because he should ask about the person he left in charge for, like, first, like, yeah, like,
You just said
not your wife, yeah. He's like, it's, yeah, the person he left in charge, yeah, that's who he's asking about, like.
That's actually really funny. I didn't, the way he just gave himself the answer.
Yeah. I'm not gonna yell at you, Nynaeve yelled.
Oh my god,
that's in this book too, by the way.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it is. So there's just that hypocriticalness that Jordan just, like, is slamming you over the head with. And this is, Nynaeve's anger and Perrin his responsibility.
2 Rivers stubbornness. That's what it is.
Rivers stubborn.
Admit what you are. That would, like, again, the book, the way it is, the book, if everyone character just admitted who they were, it'd be a lot shorter.
Yeah, and so then we get, the fact that Colivare is paying lip service to what he's doing and what he's said.
And using his power to elevate herself.
Yeah, and saying, he's going to be back in a minute. I'm just doing what he wants. He wants me to do this. I have the authority.
Something similar happened with Egwene when she was in the White Tower. Lelaine, or I think it was Ramonda, took over, beat out Lelaine and said, "Oh, I'm just supporting the Rebel Tower in Egwene's name." And Egwene was like, "Yeah, that's fine. If I come back, I'll take the power back, and if I don't, well, somebody's got to be Amyrlin." So
yeah, and Swan hates it very much. But yeah, no, that's definitely that.
But this is much more cynical because she doesn't believe he's coming back.
Well, she believes he's coming back on a leash at some point on his tour for Elida's glory. However, it's it's be like how Logain visited Camelin, that kind of.
It's a fun little trip.
Yeah, that's what she's expecting. Because and you've got the arrival of the Tyrants to make their siege on the outside, the Tyrants and Kyrianan that are working together. So it's like all those pieces are working together. So she knows she's just delaying.
Can you give me a quick summary of that? Because I got sort of deep into it, and I was getting a little confused as to who exactly is getting together where. What's this bad news that that she's portraying about the Wetlanders?
So what's happening there is that there's a camp that's against Colaver, right? And they are now joining with their counterparts in Tyr. They are people who want Rand to not rule their countries. That's their unifying thing, right? That's what they all are agreed on. And the Kyrianen don't like Colaver and her claim to power. So they're like, well, we can agree on getting Rand out, and then you can also help us get rid of Colaver. That's what I think's happening. Not gonna say that I'm sure about that.
Tyrants.
Yeah, I think that they're joining partially because Darlin wants to marry Caroline. That is a lot to do. But there's a lot of, I think, it's a strategic, I'll scratch your back if you scratch mine kind of thing. If you help us get rid of Caroline, or if you help us get rid of Colaver, then we will support you in getting rid of the dragon who we're both want to get rid of in terms of running our countries.
That helps me. I was confused reading that whole description. I was like, this is a little over my head just because there's so many different parties involved, but that helped.
This is definitely one of those name salad moments where you really have to look up every single character and figure out their alliance to figure out what is going on in the background.
Yeah.
Here. I mean, you can sort of look over and be like, yeah, these are rebels, and just like move on from there. Or if you actually want to dig in deeper to figure out where all the alliances are, and a lot of that's going to change because we know. I think this is foreshadowing Rand going out to speak to Lady Caroline and Toram.
Yeah.
And getting stabbed in the side by Fane and that whole situation.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they end up coming. Lady Caroline and Lady Caroline and Darlin come back with Codswain, and she keeps them hostage.
Well, right, because they all escape from the Fane fog situation together. But yeah, there's a lot of Darlin being like, well, I just didn't like the Lord Dragon, like the way he was presenting everything. It would have been fine if he wanted me to be king or whatever. And this whole, it evolves. I think they get together for one reason, but I think it has a lot to do with the Aes Sedai saying we're going to create a power vacuum and we want you all to play nicely together while that power vacuum sorts itself out. And that's what you can tell because the Aiel say they don't see us. They don't listen to us. They don't notice us. They avoid conflict with us and just don't want to talk to us. And yet they're not really interacting with each other either. Like there's just this like, who are they actually having a problem with? The Aiel. The Aes Sedai set them all up to like absorb the loss of Rand politically because the Aes Sedai think they can run everything.
When do you think Fane hooked up with Lord Toram?
Ooh. I feel like when...
Has that happened yet?
Yes. I feel like when Caroline introduces the situation, it's a relationship that's at least weeks old. And this is maybe a week.
Because we imagined Fane left the Two Rivers when Perrin defeated his troops. But Perrin stays around for a while. But Fane has to do the same traveling that Perrin does, which takes him a couple of months. So I don't imagine that Fane has been there that far ahead of when Perrin arrived.
Fane could use the ways, though.
That is a good point.
Not the one in Manetherin, but any other waygate get into and fast travel that way.
Visit his buddy Mocking Shin without a problem.
I think Caroline describes how long they've been together at some point. So when we get to that chapter, we'll be able to work it out. But I think it should have happened already. I think Fane is with the Tyrants when they arrive outside Cairhien, I think.
And so then we have Aes Sedai in the city. Who are these Aes Sedai who've come in since? I
wasn't clear on that either, on why there would be Aes Sedai Rand wasn't aware of.
Oh, it's Cadswain.
Oh, okay.
Because they're staying at Larry Arlen's palace.
Has that happened yet?
Or Larry Arlen's house. No. Cadswain hasn't happened yet. But she came here wanting to meet Rand.
Okay, so that's fun.
That's what's going on. I just put that together when you asked, because I hadn't. But I remembered the name Arlen. That's where Cadswain has her base of operations. That's hilarious. It just pops up really briefly. Rand gets pissy, and then we don't actually see what's going on.
I love that Rand's worried about Aes Sedai, and it's Cadswain, and it's like, little do you know, buddy. you think you're worried now. You think this is the problem. You're not wrong.
Yeah. And then we get the whole like comic moment where Ruark actually bothers to laugh because Ferragan is being so ridiculous, cringing and being proud at the same time. And then Perrin cuts through to be like, Ferragan, tell me about my wife. And she calls him Psyker, which I've always been very confused about. Yeah. It means golden eyes.
Yes.
Oh.
Psy means eyes.
How does she know that?
I wonder if there's a bit of a Aiel prophecy about that. But yeah, it's an old tongue for, because Cairn is the hill of the Golden Dawn, and so the Cair part of that means gold.
Same as with Al-Kerdal, the Golden Bowl.
Al-Kerdal, the Golden Bowl.
Oh, that's
and
cool.
And so Sai-Kar means Sai is eyes,
as in
Kar
Sai
is gold.
Mosief, my eyes are lowered from Shanji.
Oh my god, it's like a real language.
Yeah.
Oh my god, it's like he's stuck with words or something.
It means literally eyes
like
of
they
gold.
thought about
eye of
it.
gold. But yeah, it's golden eyes. And
That's really fun.
I've always wondered like what I was missing in the audiobooks for that. Like Sai-Kar. And then this, because I'm actually reading it in italics, I'm like, come here, Google. And
Oh, I'm so glad you said that because I was reading it yesterday and I was like, I don't know what that is. So that's I love that.
and it never comes up again. Like
No,
they don't even call
no.
him golden eyes that often,
No.
but in this one instance.
Yeah.
Sai-Kar. Yeah. Which is like on a line for
Yep. Totally.
Mm-hmm.
Lan.
I feel like there's a few other, Karkarn for Rand. Do they have one for Matt, the trickster?
No, they just call him common words. They call him
Yeah.
Gambler several times, so
Son of Battles. Only
Yeah.
the Finn have their names for him, I guess.
They do.
yeah, but he gets called Gambler a lot by the Aiel when they're just like, "Oh, I'm gambling with you and being an asshole."
By the way, that's another great trivia question. What do the Aiel call Perrin in the Old Tongue?
That's tough.
That one time. in
That one
Travis
time.
That's
Norris.
brutal.
That would be, yeah.
We did a family feud for our last episode, and I played with Ranland, and they mentioned that they were doing Jeopardy with Seth and Radio, and I was like, I would not want to go up against either of those two, but it sounds really fun.
I wiped the floor with them.
I can imagine.
It's really fun.
It was disgusting. It was one of those things where we were like trying to think, and she was beep answer, beep answer, and like never getting anything wrong, never hesitating for a second, getting going all in on both her daily double and on Final Jeopardy. And winning both times, of course. Like I think what do you end up with? 30,000 something
like
points.
that, yeah.
And me and
had,
Colin,
like,
but we're both
1,100 or something.
Yeah, we were which is a normal score for Jeopardy. That's
Sure.
not a bad score, right?
If
like
you're not a radio, who's just
if you're not a
wiping the
radio,
floor.
so it was ridiculous. So we need to
I can't wait.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, you guys are gonna write questions that will try to stump me.
We're gonna write, and this is going to be an example of the kind of question I'm looking for. Something that is mentioned once and once only, and we're gonna ask for exact spelling because that's the only way.
She's still gonna kill.
No, those are the ones that killed me. Was the spelling ones
The
because I'm an
spelling was the
audiobook
one, yeah.
person. I can't spell for shit.
Oh snap! Yeah, that'll get you.
Yeah, that's my my
How do you
Achilles
spell
heel.
Murderall?
Yeah.
Fuck.
YOU.
Quite.
So his biggest problem is basically the Aiel who are drifting away from him, and so he wants to address that by making the Aes Sedai look like servants.
Because otherwise the Aiel are going to think he's on a leash, no matter what he
Right.
says.
Mm-hmm.
He needs to show, not tell.
Right. Which I think it's great when the Aes Sedai are like, you need to do this, this, and he's like, go sit down.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's fantastic. He doesn't even acknowledge them. He's just like, I'm not even going to tell you your punishment. I'm going to explain it to the person who's going to carry you away.
Right.
It's so good. He gets management of Aes Sedai in that moment. He finally gets it. Here's how you deal with them.
Although he does say to Cerelia, since you hop when the Karn says it, and she's kind of like,
we'll discuss that.
really? Yeah, that's
Tell
not
yourself that, buddy.
exactly. Yeah, that's not the situation. They're gonna hop for you because I'm gonna make sure that I don't hop for you.
But
They're
she
not
does
for
the same
anyone.
thing to him. She doesn't even acknowledge how wrong he is. She's just like,
Yeah, she's not going to bother. I'm not going to explain to you.
yeah.
I also kind of love Alana's satisfaction when he sets down the Aes Sedai. She's like, "That's my warder."
Yeah. Yeah. Very much.
Even though he's setting her down among them as well, and Perrin's like, I don't get why she's happy about that. Like, why she's gonna want to get set down too. But it's like, that's my warder.
I
Yep,
forget
I'm proud of
that. I forget not everyone knows they're bonded. Because
No
it's
one knows
talked
they're
about.
bonded.
Yeah, I guess no one knows. I always reading. I was like, oh yeah, I guess Perrin doesn't know. Why would he? I forgot
Mm-mm.
reading this chapter
Only
again. I
the
was like, eh.
sisters that are part of the
Yeah.
group that is around her. Only they
No
ever
one
know.
knows. It's just such a big deal when it happens that I forget everyone doesn't know about it when I'm reading these books.
Because Rand tells nobody.
No.
Yeah, only his other warder loves end up
Yeah.
knowing inevitably. But
Now, we saw Taim figure it out in the last chapter.
Right.
We saw, there's definitely other, there's dark friends that know. It's not like it's...
they know, yeah.
They know, yeah.
Yeah, and people like Perrin should be able to figure it out. Like, they're seeing everything they need to see. We don't know anyone who might be putting it together.
Alana followed Rand with her eyes. Perrin wished he knew what was going on there.
Get it together, Perrin, yeah.
She bonded him, dumbass. Yeah, the one who almost bonded you and talked about it, and,
yeah! He should know!
Yeah. He really should.
Yeah, it's like, come on, she's not being subtle. I love Bera trying to tell Karuna to calm down, because Perrin just hears this series of words, but he's not sure, like, which word is meant to be applied to which woman. Yeah, sensible, patient, cautious, and foolish. Which applied to whom was not evident. Why is Sedai bickering in the background like you are too proud right now?
I think it's like, be sensible, have patience, and be cautious, not foolish,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And then we have Aram being,
being Aram.
Yeah. Ooh,
I want to kill! I'm so excited to murder! Yeah.
And meanwhile, Perrin's like, I don't see a problem with that. Yeah.
No.
Will we be fighting when we reach the city? Aram sounded eager. Of course not, Loial said stoutly. His ears twitched, and he peered uncomfortably at his axe. There won't be, will there, Perrin? And when I see that, and I keep doing this, angel and demon, right? This is Perrin with the axe and the hammer. These are the voices of the devil in him that wants to attack and kill, and the angel in him that doesn't want to do any violence.
Part of him that would follow the way of the leaf and be a pacifist, and yeah.
And that's where you have Ogier on one side and the tinker who's betrayed the way of the leaf on the other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because Ogier actually are able to find that balance. So it's like, Loial's upset with the idea of needless violence. Like,
right.
Even though he uses an axe, which is kind of funny to me.
A wood axe, not a battle axe.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's not the same, yeah.
It's not quite the same, but it's still an axe. So.
They're putting a long handle on their axe means they are taking a tool and converting it into a weapon. Yeah. So it still falls in that could be either or thing that Perrin needs the hammer to
and
be.
it's paired opposite a sword, which can never have that argument be made for it. So it very much works for articulating that thing about the way of the leaf and all that.
I did a video recently where I talked about how I don't like Aram because I think he goes from being a jerk for no reason to being a jerk for a reason, and that's basically his arc. I mean, that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
And then he also becomes crazy. Great. But it's just, he becomes such a zealot so quickly. And it's like, this is the one who turned away from the way of the leaf. Wouldn't it be interesting to see a little bit more nuance there? And we just never get it from him. And I mean, all they really had to do was make him nice in the beginning. But by the time we're here, it's like, he's just crazy. And I hope from the show we get some more dynamics with Aram. Because I think he could be an interesting character.
Yeah. They cast a really pretty actor for him, so I hope that they give him space for using that
definitely
prettiness.
Visualize it, yes.
And I mean, like, you don't need to throw pacifism under the bus as being just as extreme as, like, violence all the time. Like, you can have some nuance to that.
Yeah.
What I think of it, though, is, like, a convert is often the most extreme.
Yeah. That's interesting and true.
And that Aram very much is a convert into violence, and so he has embraced it. He has made violence his identity.
Yeah.
In a way that someone, and we see that in religion all the time. People who can, often first-generation converts, are the most enthusiastic about trying to convert other people.
And people that lose their faith tend to rebound really hard. And the way of the leaf is a very extreme level of commitment, even if it's not an extreme belief. So he loses it really abruptly.
I mean, Aram's basically a Q conspiracist who, like, was a former Christian and lost his faith and, like, bought into the Q conspiracy and is now, believing that there are dark friends in the rafters and shit like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think zealotry is portrayed in a really good way in the Wheel of Time. I think, not a good way, but, like, a believable way. Like the White Cloaks and Aram, I believe how they become so one-sided. But it's also like, what if there were one moment in the series where Aram thought to himself, oh, maybe I did the wrong thing. Maybe I shouldn't have left my family. Just one moment of that would be so powerful, because all he becomes later is just, we're already seeing it in the Crown of Swords. Like, all right, you're just crazy now. Like, there's only one, it's just one or the other. I would love to see some more nuance to him.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, he holds down an extreme thing so that way Perrin can have nuance. Because he's the demon against Loial's angel, and Loial is so pure and wonderful and perfect that, like, Perrin is where the complication lies.
Sure.
And that might be more efficient for storytelling purposes.
We also never get an Aram POV, which I think is one of the reasons why it's hard to be sympathetic for him. We never see it from what he's thinking. Why is he, what sort of desperation is going on in his mind to cause him to drive himself to work this hard and be this kind of person?
I thought Aram was under compulsion under my first read through.
Yeah, from who?
Grendel.
I agree with that. I had that hypothesis for a while too.
It's certainly a possibility.
I thought someone would be, if not a white cloak, I thought it would be Aram. And then that just, Grendel might have had her fingers in some of the white cloaks, but I don't know exactly. I thought that would be a big reveal, and it never happened.
Yeah, I totally saw Grendel as having her fingers in both Massima and Aram, but...
Yeah! Yes, Massima too!
Well, she's definitely got her fingers in Massima.
She does, okay.
And Aram gets infected with Massima.
Right, because Massima sees the dragon reborn in his dreams, who tells him to do stuff.
It's a very Mormon vision. Glowing figure of light telling him what to do. It always makes me think of Joseph Smith.
Stick his head in a hat and read, yeah. But no, and so there is a Forsaken talking to him and giving him instructions. Okay. And I have to wonder if maybe through Massima, he was instructed to corrupt Aram.
Yeah, or maybe it's almost like a feign thing where like it just sort of feeds on itself because it's the evil that men can make, right? And it's like that little seed is starting to get fired up in a whole new way, and Aram is like the perfect fertile soil for that to happen in.
Yeah. And that's really what I see is Jordan making a point about good men being, there's not a source of evil that all evil comes from. You can be evil simply through being Aram.
You can be evil just by being this asshole.
Yeah.
But yeah. Oh, I love that not all the villains are dark friends. We've got lots of gray area.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if this means anything, but remember Mara and the Three Foolish Kings?
Mm-hmm.
Aram is Mara backwards.
That's cool.
Don't know if that means anything whatsoever.
With the three okay.
Is it the three Taviran boys?
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Aram and the three Taviran. He doesn't really interact with Matt ever.
No.
But it sounds like a fun fanfic.
Right. Well, and Mara's the competent, intelligent one who fools the kings in that one, and Mara backwards is the foolish, manipulated boy. I think it's entirely a coincidence, but I'm going with it.
Commit.
Yeah. Women are stranger than drunken wetlanders.
One of the best lines ever.
Yep.
Stranger than drunken wetlanders. And it's not untrue.
I'm not
as a drunken wetlander sometime woman, I'm just saying, like, I'm under authority. This is true.
So wait, is a drunken wetlander woman? Like, that must be just the strangest freaking thing ever.
I mean,
just drunk enough to dance on a table and not a wit drunker.
Mm-hmm. Take off my clothes and dance on the table, mind you.
Right.
Yes.
Except for the heeled boots, those stay on.
Speaking of the Red Rod Tanker Hungry, y'all.
I actually do not have the coordination to dance in heeled boots, clothed or unclothed. Just fall over and hurt myself.
But Elaine does?
No, but I think Brigida probably does.
Oh, Brigida definitely does.
I think Brigida keeps her boots on for that scene.
Oh, do you think Brigida's the one dancing in that scene? I always thought it was Elaine.
Well, no, that's why it's a joke, right? Elaine does it the first time, right? And then when they're getting drunk because Elaine and Rand are banging, and Brigida says, I need to get drunk enough to take off my clothes and dance on the table and not a hair drunker. And Avienda laughs. I had someone explain to me that it's because that's how we know what Elaine did.
Yes.
So, I'm just saying that I think that when Brigida goes and gets that drunk because Elaine is banging Rand, I think that she keeps her boots on because I'm just headcanoning that.
That whole scene is so uncomfortable to me. Ugh. When they're like feeling it, I'm like, it's weird. It's just weird to me.
The next thing I have is Perrin shouting very inappropriately, burn their bloody interest, which is just like awkward.
What is he shouting that about?
Because Bane and Shiad left. Sorry.
Yeah.
So we're back on the Bane and Shiad.
Yeah, Gaul is like explaining the situation because Perrin's not paying attention, and then Perrin realizes that he's not talking about Fail, so fuck you. And it's just like...
That's it, yeah.
Oh, Perrin. Perrin. But everyone draws attention to it. Yeah. Everyone now knows that Perrin's upset. And then Perrin almost calls Gaul a nasty name and manages to not. Says, Loial, will you explain to this ... to Gaul Like, what did you almost call him, Perrin? That was about to be a very naughty word.
I'm very curious. What do you think he was going to say?
I'm trying to think of like the worst thing in Watt talk, but none of them sound that bad.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, that same here, especially because Perrin's not like practiced at that, so he's likely going to be hitting like the lower shelves of how bad it could get.
Yeah.
He's just like this light blinded idiot, like
That idiot is the word I was thinking. Yeah.
Yeah.
you know, desert crazed black. I mean, honestly, I think he was probably going to slide into a racial slur, be like this black man savage or something. But that's just my like darkest first impulse.
Right. It's hard for me to see Perrin falling into a racial slur with Gaul, his like best buddy.
Yeah, it doesn't quite strike me right, but like that's the worst thing I can think of.
Right.
I'm thinking idiot, right? Because like I've called my friends idiots all the time, especially when I'm angry at them. You know, that fucking idiot. Like, why is he doing that thing again? You know, like that to me is something that like I think about my friends, but am also and will say out loud, but maybe want to moderate when I'm frustrated. You know, like because everyone I know does something dumb, including me, or does dumb things, you know?
Yeah, there's even like there are some words that might not necessarily be horrible that you just don't want to say.
Right.
But it's funny with Wheel of Time because I really enjoy Wheel of Time swearing. I think it's very charming. I think it's very good for the world building that they have their own style of swearing. But in a situation like this, it makes it sort of impossible to imagine anything that sounds bad. Because, you know, burn you just doesn't have the same punch as some of our words that we use in the real world. So it's funny because I can't think of anything that truly would be bad. I can't think of any example in Wheel of Time that's an actual harsh sounding swear word.
Yeah, particularly not that fits in Perrin's character. Just
right.
not in him.
Taking it back to Broken Earth, man, the curse words in that series are so good. Rusting Earth, evil,
Cannibal Son Ruster.
Yeah,
it's
so good.
I can't wait to reread that on the page. It's so good.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to read us out the last couple of paragraphs.
Okay.
Because there's some Loial talking, and I never want to miss an opportunity to read some Loial out loud. Loial patted him awkwardly on the shoulder.
Perrin, I know you're worried. I know how I'd feel if I thought anything happened to Aerith.
The tufts on his ears quivered. He was a fine one to talk. He would run as hard as he could to avoid his mother and the young Ogier woman she had chosen for him.
Ah, well, Perrin, Loial is waiting for you, safe and sound. I know it. And you know she can care for herself. Why, she could care for herself, and you, and me, and Gaul as well.
His booming laugh sounded forced, and it quickly faded to grave seriousness.
Perrin, you know you can't always be there to protect Fail, however much you want to. You are Ta'veren. The pattern spun you out for a purpose, and it will use you for that purpose.
Burn the pattern, Perrin growled. It can all burn if it keeps her safe. Loial's ears went rigid with shock. Even Gaul looked taken aback. What does that make me, Perrin thought. He had been scornful of those who scribbled and scrabbled for their own ends, ignoring the last battle and the Dark One's shadow creeping over the world. How was he different from them? Rand reined in the black beside him. Are you coming? I'm coming, Perrin said bleakly. He had no answer for his own question, but he knew one thing. To him, Fail was the world.
Yes!
I mean...
your Loial voice is so good.
I mean...
I love it so much!
It's my impression of Michael Kramer doing the Loial.
Yeah, that's why I like it, though, because I feel all the, elements coming together. It's fabulous.
It's an intense question, though. Like what you were saying earlier, the strength of his relationship to Fail is what anchors him in the dream world where nothing is real. So to him, Fail is the world. He has to protect the world. He has to protect Fail at all costs. It's not bad logic. It leads to very interesting interpersonal decisions.
Yeah.
But also, this is the guy who just put together a force to go save the Dragon Reborn and save the world. How does that make him different? He just abandoned Fail to go save the Dragon Reborn in the world.
Good point.
That's the thing is he always like has a different mindset from what he's doing. It's like you just did the thing and now you're talking about how like, oh, I don't feel that way, I don't think that way. It's like, but you do, because you left your wife to go do it.
Right.
Like it doesn't line up with his action. He for someone who doesn't want to identify as the leader of Manetheren, you sure as hell seem to be leading Manetheren. Like, it's, sorry. This is the point of the series where it all kind of gets started, I feel like, after Jemai's Wells. And I'm just like, you're already doing the thing, buddy. Who cares what you feel?
So here's what I think about it. Because he idealizes this simple blacksmith's life, he's trying to create a world where that life is possible, and that's what makes him a good leader.
Mm-hmm.
And because he's creating a good life for other people. And he's like, and for himself, he's like, all I want to do is live that life, but the Bryan Cranston scene where he just wants to fix a light bulb and ends up, like, trying to repair his car, like, I feel like that's with Perrin. All he wants to do is have a simple life as a blacksmith, but to do that, he has to save the world first. And it's it's just this series of events where it's like, all he wants to do is screw in a light bulb, but to do that, he's got to go defeat, Slayer, and keep the Dragon Reborn, and stop the world from ending, because if the world ends, he can't screw in his light bulb, that's what it boils down to with Perrin, is that's just, he's the next step in saving, in having a simple life, is becoming what he's become. And that's why I like him so much, he takes the next step, and wherever that leads, his goal is to do the right thing.
And to be loyal to the people that make that worthwhile, right? Like, to create a world in which the people you love can live, and to be loyal to what they need is very much, I think, something that he wants, right? He's like, I want my family to be safe, right? He's not, he takes a lot of people into account.
His heart's always in the right place, except for when he needs to save the world and Fael stuff happens. But I like Perrin himself. I really, really do. Because I do think it should be as simple as he just wants to live a simple life. But I think it sort of gets overcomplicated sometimes with the stuff with, do I choose the axe or the hammer? I like that stuff just gets dragged out so much. And I feel like it starts here kind of. And I just feel like he's already gotten past that, even at this point.
I do feel like that is an effect of Jordan told Perrin's story first out of the three boys. And then the series ended up going on for quite a bit longer than he expected.
Mm-hmm.
And so Perrin did a lot of his evolving early on, and then he only had one or two more steps left before the last battle. And Jordan's like, great, you sit over here while I do the rest of these characters. And that's why we don't have them for a book, that's why we're focused on Matt, then we have Rand. Perrin is a little bit just sort of faded into the background and a little bit on the plot treadmill of Malden. And that is simply because his story was so intensely told in the beginning of the books, when I do believe Jordan thought there would only be like 6 to 9 books in the series. And it makes a lot more sense to have Perrin only have a few more things to do if you imagine there's only a couple more books left.
That's true, yeah. That's a good point.
It makes a lot of sense because, that traveling to Malden thing, that could have been any length of time, which is why it's so freaking long.
Right.
Carry that, yeah.
It's fun in that respect because then you can see how the writing of the books evolved over time. Because at first Jordan thought it would be like a trilogy or, a sextuplet or whatever.
It's crazy.
And then you can see how it changes. And like he could never go back and write that out of it, right? You can't unwrite the way that shaped the first 6 books. And sometimes there's inconsistencies and it's like, but it's because the books were so successful, he wrote like 3 times as many. And like, I can't be
which we're happy about.
That.
And it also means there's a history behind it. And that's why we can have these conversations.
Totally.
So I'm cool with that, with those inconsistencies and like the history behind them, I think is actually fun.
Yeah, for sure. And sometimes, when you yell at a character for doing something that's stupid, then your friends turn around and they're like, well, you do that. So.
Yeah.
And then you're like, I learned something about myself and I'm uncomfortable.
I also really love the sort of like meta of like Perrin feels like he's stuck in a morass and can't go anywhere and can't rescue Fael, and like that feeling of being stuck is something that he has, and it's something that you also have when you're reading those chapters. And so it's like this, it's a very meta, it's like when Rand is experiencing his first channeling sickness, and they're very confusing with the chapters, and you see the same scene twice with Almond Blunt and the scarf, and you get all out of order, and it's not obvious that you're out of temporal order, because Rand's confused, and so are you. And in the Perrin chapters, Perrin's frustrated, and so are you. That's my best.
We're all in this together.
Maybe Jordan deliberately wrote those slowly and plottingly because he wanted you to feel frustrated as you read through them.
Yeah,
I never thought of that, but I like it. It makes me feel less alone there.
Yeah, right. And
so he's with me.
Yeah, Jordan knew what he was doing, and like we're all in this. Like
we're gonna get through this together.
if it didn't make zero sense for an author to write a book as frustratingly as possible, I would absolutely think that he did that.
Yeah, Bambi, I agree. I choose to believe that this is all deliberate. You know, like wherever possible, Jordan can do no wrong. Occasionally he's done wrong. There are a few things where I just choose to accept that he's wrong. But for the most part, headcanon, how it makes sense. It works.
Yeah, and for the most part, Jordan's wrong through omission.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Which means that there's totally room to just spackle over the whole.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Fine. You're fine.
It'll buff out.
Yeah, there's tons of gay men in the Wheel of Time. They just don't happen to be on screen. That's all.
It's not that they're not there.
Right, yeah, totally.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This is a very inclusive world. You just don't see all the people we're including.
Exactly. It's my story, and I'm sticking to it. But and then that's where we talk about the show really has an opportunity to correct some of those things.
Because it doesn't break canon to add what wasn't taken out or what wasn't
explicitly not there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
It's literally in the spirit of what so many of us have taken away from the books for that to happen.
It's a new age.
It's not pandering. It's what Jordan would want us to do.
100%. Yeah. It's exciting, though. It's exciting that the show has this chance.
Yes, it is. It is.
I can't wait.
And that's why, stories should never stop. The wheel should never stop turning. There is no final version of the Wheel of Time. There's simply another turning of the wheel. And that's, if you don't like the changes that are made, it's just another turning,
Yeah.
Yeah, very much so, there's a lot of freedom in that.
And my favorite theme in the Wheel of Time is we're reborn so we can do better the next time. So I think there's something very just on brand with bringing it up to the times. I actually think it's the Wheel of Time. It's about turnings of the wheel and things happening again. And it's exciting that they can do things a new way. We should want to see it differently, right? Like I want to see it. I want to see a different version, not completely different, but I would like to see some changes and get to experience it for the first time again.
Yeah. There's no way to recreate the first time you read the books unless you rewrite it for the show.
This will be the first time we see the TV show. Which is, I think, why so many people were angry at Winter Dragon. Because the first time you see Wheel of Time in visual TV was this really, really terrible adaptation.
It's
that was... Yeah, I mean, we don't count that. It doesn't...
Right.
No, yeah.
That was...
But at the time, when you thought that was, what we were getting...
Yeah.
That was upsetting. To think that was, that they had... Because it didn't seem like anything else was going to happen after that to me.
Mm-hmm.
It felt like...
I was afraid that it sunk it forever.
Right, that's how
it's gonna be stuck in a legal swamp. We'll never see it.
Right, we were all confused and it just didn't look good. So yeah, that was which makes this all the more cool. The fact that it was allowed to happen still. Sorry, I get excited about the show.
No, yeah, and I'm just gonna ignore that Amazon is currently embattled in a bunch of controversy and pretend that has to do with the TV show. And assume it has nothing to do with
It's
the TV
really
show.
ginormous company.
Amazon.
So we'll just separate compartments. We'll just compartmentalize what's happening.
Oh, the fact that it's Amazon, we have to.
It's
we'll just have
huge. The film can be over there, and the union fuckery
and
can be over there.
And the company and the you're right. Yeah, pretend that it's just
all I want to do is make sure that they pay taxes on the profits they make off of the wheel. Oh wait.
Cognitive dissonance is a hell of a ride.
This episode brought to you by Amazon Prime. Please support us.
I mean, would we say no if they offered?
I'd throw an Amazon Prime logo right there.
That's what I'm saying.
Absolutely. Right. Yeah, no, I'm. You can buy me out. I'm not expensive, really.
That's
but at the same time, that's the problem. They bought out the whole.
And we all said yes.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I certainly didn't do much to stop it.
I have not stopped shopping at Amazon.
I shop at Amazon.
Yeah.
And I plan to watch The Wheel of Time.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to stop either of those things.
Nope. As a matter of fact, I've upped my participation in Amazon's business model because they're doing The Wheel of Time. I've supported them more because of that. If we can put pressure on Amazon as a little tiny podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's they're so big. I don't the idea of going up against them in any way, shape, or form, but maybe as a community, we can at least hold them accountable with wheel time related stuff.
There's a really great Jewish proverb that I'm going to completely butcher. The basic idea is just because you can't fix the world doesn't take away your obligation to work on it.
Love that.
We got to do what we can do, right? We're in our sphere, so we can advocate for inclusion. We can advocate for workers' rights. We can say what we think and also do what we love and just, trust that just because we can't fix it because we're not Taviran, right, doesn't mean part of the pattern, right? We are the Fireflies.
That's a great attitude. Yeah. Man, it's got to start somewhere, those kinds of changes. And it's tough. It's tough because these companies are in charge of these things that are feels like two different things. Amazon and Wheel of Time, but we've got to square that. I don't know. It's weird. It's weird to associate Amazon with the Wheel of Time for me.
Yeah.
I'm still figuring out how to, that's just where I'm trying to.
Yeah, I mean, I've managed to stop using Amazon aside from my Audible subscription and the fact that I know I'm going to be watching the show. Right. I make an effort to do everything else on other things, but Audible has my soul. It's what it is.
They do. And one of the things that's gone on is, for me, my family likes to give me Amazon gift cards. That's become sort of a de facto gift in our house. And so I have a lot of money just sitting in Amazon, so.
Yeah, Sam, if I get the gift cards, yes, I'm spending them.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right. They already have the money.
Exactly.
Right.
Brian, where can we find you? What's a great place? Well, I know you're Recappa on YouTube, but do you have any social media? What are your other?
Sure. Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Recappa Sedai. Recappa spelled recap and then a PA. It's like Rebecca, but Recappa, you get it. And my YouTube channel is Wheel Talk. And I'm also on Valon After Dark with Nameless and Jess. We do podcasts. It's a lot of fun. And yeah, those are pretty much the three places you can find me. I'm at Recappa Sedai on pretty much all social. And Wheel Talk on YouTube.
Tell me more about this Valon After Dark. That's a new thing that's popped up, and I've seen a few promos for it, but and obviously we've had Jess on, and I think she brought it up as well. So, it's on my listen to list, but it's
sure. And there's a lot. There's, I'm sure everyone's lists are constantly getting longer. There's so much, but we just did our 5th episode, and it's a sketch comedy Wheel of Time podcast, and then we wrap up by talking about news for the show and. We also pick a main topic each week. We just went through our favorite moments in the series, and it's been a lot of fun. We have a lot of fun. It's a little wacky. We kind of try some new stuff on it, and I've had a blast with them on it. So
nice. It's
been a lot of fun. We're having a really good time with it. Valon After Dark.
That sounds like a hoot. I mean, After Dark
it's
is
fun. It's
sketch comedy After Dark. What?
Yes, our thing is what happens in North Harbor stays in North Harbor. And, we do a lot of fake commercials. We do a lot of it's sketch comedy, so it's something different. I think and we really enjoy it.
That sounds like something we need to check out.
It's fun. It's a lot of fun.
Is it hard to find North Harbor? I've been looking. For a while.
We go into that. Yeah, that's the thing people talk about.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, thanks so much.
Well, yeah, thanks so much for joining us, and we're excited we're going to have you back for the next 2 chapters.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I love listening to this podcast, so yes, I'm excited. I'm going to be thinking about gateways till the next time we talk and trying to make this work in my head. The second I hang up, I'm going to go start Googling things to try to make this make sense for me.
I feel like I need to find the right mathematical simulation.
I need an image.
Yeah.
I need to see a line rotate into a square for this to work in my head.
I'm going to find you that
as far as my brain works, lines rotate into circles.
Yeah.
That's how a line rotates into a shape. I just can't change that in my head. I got to fix it.
Yeah, there's a gift for that. There's definitely a gift for that.
There's definitely a gift for that. So hopefully by next episode, we'll definitely have something for you. And we're really excited. I when you proposed these 3 chapters, you were like 1, 2, 3, and I looked at it and I was like, yeah, it's like one
giant
plot line. It's like one giant chapter split into 3. So this is just perfect to have you on for all 3, so we can just continue this conversation about Perrin and Colaver and Rand and all that kind of stuff from Perrin's POV.
Everyone remember to check out SpoilerCon stuff.
SpoilerCon! That's definitely, yes. Check out SpoilerCon. Going on the Dusty Wheel soon.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm joining Malkier Talks fairly soon for a... we are speculating on what would happen to an Ogier corrupted by the Blight?
Ooh.
And going deep into that. So, and possibly, what if that's how Shada Haran got started?
Yeah. We're just doing so much stuff all over the community. I love how many different things we're doing now. It's like weeks are getting full. Like,
really? I have 7 recordings over the next 10 days.
I mean, I have 3 back-to-back recordings. I'm doing this today, and then Wheel takes tomorrow, and then this again on Thursday. It's just, it goes and goes, and I'm really interested to see how this continues on, how the next physical Jordan Con goes, how our subsequent spoiler cons go, how the show podcast, show coverage things, just, we are all just throwing everything at the wall and seeing what sticks, and so far it seems like everything's sticking.
Right. You people are watching everything. Why? Get a
Where
life.
do you get this time?
Why do you have time? You're clearly not producing this content, because that takes too much time to also be watching it.
And yet, it seems like all my friends have podcasts. All of us have podcasts. I swear, like, me and all my friends, we're all podcasters, just, like, listening to each other's stuff and being behind on it.
It kind of reminds me of the restaurant industry, where, like, half of your customers work at other restaurants and just come in to eat. And, like, you're like, half of the food you serve is just comped, because then you can go to their place and get free
I was
food.
going to say, it's all about the discounts.
It's all about the discounts, so we need to figure out how to discount each other in the podcast community. I think by doing this, by having guests and shouting each other out and exposing each other to each other's fans and communities. So,
well, thank you for letting me join you, and
thank you for coming on and being amazing.
It was fun. This was great. I loved it. Oh, should I grab my book? It actually wasn't, because I moved it last night, so we'll just go without. It's fine.
It's fine. That's fine.
It's the one book missing from my stack of Wheel of Time.
Oh, it's Crown of Swords?
Because I read it last night, so yeah, I don't know where I put it.
No. Like, I did that yesterday, where I pulled out the sunscreen because I was going outside and put it somewhere so I would make sure not to forget it, and then I went to put it on and I cannot find it for the life. I have no idea where I put it.
Yeah.
Sunscreen's gone. So I have a very burnt neck right now.
Yeah, last night I grabbed it to review and then, put it somewhere important where I wouldn't lose it, and I lost it. So that's my vibe.
I almost did that. So I got vaccinated yesterday, my first dose vaccine.
Congrats.
Which I'm very excited about.
Yay.
That's exciting.
Almost did that with my vaccine card. I put it somewhere important and almost immediately forgot where I put it. It was like, crap, where is it? And then, like, I found it again.
And then you, like,
And now
stapled
it's
it
on
to
the
your
fridge.
forehead. And now you're
Yeah, no, it's like, it's on the fridge where I can't forget it.
That would stress
had
me
that
out.
moment.
I can't imagine after getting it, like, not having the card. I would freak out. That sounds rough.
Can I be honest? What happened was, for the first time, is I got out of the car and I was carrying it because I was like, I do not want to put this somewhere where it's going to get, like, crushed or lost. And then I got inside and I couldn't find it. And what had happened is was carrying a bunch of stuff and it had slipped out from between my fingers and was literally lying in the middle of the street outside my apartment.
No.
So
Pretty
that
bad.
was bad.
Yeah.
That was bad.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I realized, the first thing I did when I got into the apartment was be like, okay, where is it? Where is it? I must have dropped it, and turned around and immediately went right back outside.
Thank God.
But,
I would have. Oh, that's, yeah. I don't do well
Three
with those
more gray
situations.
hairs appeared in one afternoon.
Oh,
Yeah, I can only imagine. Yeah.
Yeah, you think this baldness is a coincidence? I had a full head of hair this morning.
Brand new. Well done for getting vaccinated. That's super exciting. Everyone who says they've gotten vaccinated, I'm stoked that's happening.
Super awesome.
Timber, Cattle Lord of Chaos is asking how old is Timber. He's turning, I don't know exactly, but I got him 5 years ago, almost exactly. Yeah, I got him, like, it might actually be exactly 6 months.
We were talking about this the other day.
Yeah.
That you got him with Jessica, when you were together with Jessica, who's at the end of the episode.
Yeah.
So before any of us by a long margin.
I'm just trying to think if it's exactly, but it was spring 5 years ago. I'm just trying to remember. I think it may have been April 5 years ago, and since we're in April, I think we may be coming up on exactly 5 years since I got him.
Aww. Dog anniversary.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming he was about a year old. I always need to look that up. I always forget the exact date. But yeah, I moved into an apartment that let me have dogs. And like 3 days in, like right after I'd unpacked, I was like, since we can get dogs, I'm going to go to Humane Society and just look around. I came home with Timber that day.
Been there, yes. That's how it happens.
Jessica was like, we just moved. Come on. I was like,
I met my dog. Yeah, what are you going to do?
Yeah, I met my dog. What are you going to do? Like, you meet your dog, you bring him home.
That's true. That's true.
I'm so excited for when that is on my horizon at some point. I'm really jazzed. At some point.
Ooh, yeah.
I've had a puppy since January. I'm sorry.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
I saw
it's been fun.
Pumpkin, right?
Pumpkin.
on
My
the
word of
video
pumpkin.
For this live stream last night.
Oh, yeah. She made an appearance.
Yeah, I flipped back
Came
through
back.
it just to like see a little bit of it.
Yeah,
Is she around? Is she around now?
Yeah, hang on. Patrick? I'd have to run to the other room to grab her. But...
Bring my fur,
Oh.
baby. Yeah.
Bring me a fur baby,
Bring
please.
my dog. Yeah.
Yeah, we haven't gotten a dog yet because we're just trying to get all of our ducks in a row for all the things.
I like to line the ducks up before the dogs to attack. Like, I want the ducks all in a row. Yeah, that's, yeah.
But yeah, we're putting in a fence and just, doing more practical things. Somebody's
All
really
that.
practical in this house. It's not me.
I'm about to restart Broken Earth. I've never read it on the page. I've audiobooked it. I've audiobooked
Robin
it.
Miles.
And the audiobooks are wonderful, but
They're so good.
I've never read it on the page. So I finally bought it and I have it. And I've listened to Broken Earth spoilers, but I've actually stopped myself because I think it would be fun to do it as I read. So on this next read through, you will be my accompaniment as I go through it. Yeah, it'll be fun.
You. I'm trying really hard to get book 2 going. I'm trying to add video, and the logistics of adding video plus my own creative being stuck in a rutness is just it's a challenge. Every time I turn around, it's been another week since I last tried to do anything with it. So,
well, I always like what you have to say, and you actually are kind of part of the reason I was like, I should go back and read these on the page. These were so good, so I'm excited to do that. The layout on the page
matters, like it really does.
It changes my experience because I'm very distracted with my audiobooks. Even though I love audiobooks, I don't take the whole thing in. So for a series that good, when I audiobook it, I'm like, all right, let me buy the books and do it. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, well, have fun with that soon.
Yes.
It's so good. Robin Miles and N.K. Jemisin have ruined me for modern fantasy. I'm honestly like, they changed my opinion of Brandon Sanderson.
Yeah.
I can see that.
Same.
I mean, especially just like, there are just so many things that I feel those books deal with in such a straightforward, honest, simple way that I've never seen dealt with in other series. We talk about like the polyamory in Wheel of Time and whether or not it's depicted well. And that's a whole other conversation I won't get into. But like, it's not a question in the Broken Earth. It's not even a thing. It's just how 3 people happen to have a relationship. And it's not a subplot. It's just how it is. And it's so beautiful and real and simple. And and
a cornerstone of the book. Like, I mean,
yes. Yeah, not to minimize the importance of that relationship, but the fact that it's a polyamorous relationship is not what I think about. I think about the relationship they had. And when I'm thinking about Rand, Min, Avianta, and Elaine, I'm thinking about the fact that it's a polyamorous relationship because it's not a real relationship. And he's the Dragon Reborn, so it feels a little bit coincidental. So, I really appreciate all these questions that have come up with the Wheel of Time, which will always be my favorite. They're not even questions in a series like The Broken Earth. It's just a given.
Yeah, and as much as I love Jordan, he's a genius, excellent writer. He has never been the best at writing relationships, and mostly he's avoided it.
Yeah,
which is fine, and that's and I think some of his weakest writing is when he delves into and when I say relationships, I mean romantic relationships. Because obviously all these characters have relationships, and he's very good at writing 2 people who already are in love. I think the Bashirs. I think the Ruark and Amis.
Yeah.
I think he writes a really good existing relationships, but he writes really terrible potential relationships.
Yeah.
And intro to relationships. And so the way I think about it is I just kind of assume all the forming of the relationships happens off screen, and all he's showing, like, Lan and Nynaeve is written so well because a lot of their relationship happens off screen while camping, and their interactions happen not from their POV, and we just assume they fell in love off screen. And, like, Jordan doesn't try and write that.
Right.
And there's a certain merit to that, because then you can map what you think their relationship is onto it, right? He's letting you do the heavy lifting and imagine it the way you want it to be. There's some holes in it, too.
Yeah. And I think there are some, like, non-romantic relationships that I really like in the series. Like, I think the relationship between Rand and Moiraine is really interesting, and I think Nynaeve and Egwene even.
Birgitta and Matt.
Yeah, I think there are some interesting friendships and mentorships, but none of my favorite relationships in the series are romantic ones because I don't see them develop.
Yeah.
And I think that's where Jordan was just writing to his strengths. I think he's just like, I tried to write them, and Harriet said no.
What are you gonna do?
Yeah, he's like, although I think I was specifically talking about the sex scenes. But, yeah, I mean, this is, like, in the same way, like, he just, and I am fine with that, right?
Oh, yeah.
The last thing I need is an author who's not funny trying to tell jokes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, play to your strengths.
For sure. And then everything's different, right? You don't have to have every book have the same components, but yeah. It is nice, though, seeing more established relationships, because much like older people in general, but particularly older women, you don't see older relationships in a lot of fantasy. A lot of fantasy is all about the bright, shiny puppy love hormone relationships, and you don't get meaningful older relationships, like, playing a part. But Davram and Dira, their relationship is a huge part of why they're valuable to the story, and it's nice representation to see that.
Yeah, I like them together. That's funny. I love that example came up when we were talking about this, because till anyone had said it or isolated those two, I was like, yeah, those are actually two people who really seem in love in relation to all these other couples in the series. I don't think I could even isolate what it is about them, but it just feels real compared to some other ones.
Yeah.
I want to say mutual respect.
Yeah.
Like, Davram respects the hell out of his wife, and she respects the hell out of him. And when Perrin is wondering, like, what's the secret, like, and he's, like, all questioning, like, I need Davram Bashir to tell me what his secret is. It's respect. Mm-hmm. It's respecting her opinions and only overriding her when it's really important.
And not assuming she's a child anytime she gets into danger.
Right, and assuming she can take care of herself, and, right. And, yes.
Which he's doing so well with.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast. Rate us in the Apple Podcast app or support us on Patreon. Is that good enough?